Chapter 5:15. After visiting the certification center, Jun Changshao brought Lu Wancher back to the inn. The next day. There were 3 days left before the culinary competition. At first, Lu Wancher had planned to study Chinese recipes in the inn to prepare for the upcoming competition, but she was called out by Jun Changshao. Headmaster. Walking on the street, she saw that the headmaster was not going to the academy or the certification center. She was puzzled and asked, "Where are we going?" "The Ouyang family," Jun Changshao said. Lu Wancher hurriedly advised, "Headmaster, forget it." Although she had suffered a lot in the Ouyang family, she did not want to feel proud. She only hoped that she would never have anything to do with this family. The little girl could bear it, but Jun Changshao could not. He was called a bastard when he met the direct descendant of the Ouyang family in the grocery store. This was too much. Headmaster Jun is going to the Ouyang family? Something interesting is going to happen. Let's go, let's follow him. The passers-by judged that Jun Changshao was going to visit the Ouyang family from his route, so they hurriedly followed him. After a while, there were thousands of martial cultivators following behind sect leader Jun, and they were almost forming a long line. Headmaster. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, the vice-headmaster released his spiritual thoughts, and the corner of his mouth twitched. That guy is going to cause trouble for the Ouyang family. A young man. Situ Haoyun said calmly, "It's inevitable that he is hot-blooded." The vice-headmaster was speechless. He had just beaten up the direct descendant and the elders yesterday, and today he was going to cause trouble for the family. This was more than hot-blooded. Yi Tianqing, who was at the certification center, also noticed Headmaster Jun's movements. He shook his head helplessly and said, "This is really a restless person." Jun Changshao's every move was not only observed by the 2 major organizations, but also by the major families in the city. When he went to the Ouyang family, it immediately attracted a lot of attention. "TSK, TSK." A family leader said, "The Ouyang family offended the sword and martial kings. This is going to be troublesome. Patriarch, this matter has also given us a warning. When the direct descendants are outside, they must keep a low profile and not cause any trouble," an elder said solemnly. "That makes sense." The patriarch agreed. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Jun Changshao brought Lu Wancher and stopped in front of the Ouyang family's residence. As expected of a clan in the capital, their facade was very grand and imposing. Creak. The gate of the mansion opened, and a few old men with strong auras walked out. One of the slightly older elders asked with a dark expression, "Sect Master Jun, why have you come to my Ouyang family?" These were the elders of the Ouyang family who had real power. Lu Wancher was so frightened that she hid behind the sect leader timidly. "Lass." Jun Changshao said, "I'm here, don't be afraid." Lu Wancher responded. Her state of mind gradually calmed down, and her courage increased. Jun Changshao said indifferently, "Your Ouyang clan's direct descendant humiliated my sect's disciples at the sundry goods store yesterday. I'm here today to seek justice." The faces of the Ouyang clan's elders were abnormally ugly. Sect Master Jun, the elder with a higher status, said in a deep voice, "I've already heard about yesterday's matter. The direct descendant was indeed in the wrong first, but she was also beaten by you. Isn't it too much to ask for justice? Furthermore." He looked at Lu Wancher behind him and said indifferently, "This girl is still a member of my Ouyang clan. Sect Master Jun brought her here to seek justice. It doesn't make sense, right?" These words were said perfectly. If it were someone else, they definitely wouldn't be able to accept it. However, Sect Master Jun said, "My disciple is a member of your Ouyang clan. That's why I brought her here to seek justice." The corners of the martial cultivator's mouth twitched slightly. So that girl was still a member of the Ouyang clan. A little conflict with someone from the same clan was also other people's family matter. Why did you, an outsider, meddle in it? The eyes of the Ouyang clan's elders were filled with anger. Jun Changshao said, "Some of your clan's direct descendants have bullied my precious disciple many times. Ask them all to come out and bow and apologize one by one in public." Bow and apologize in public, this request was too much. Jun Changshao. A bad-tempered elder said angrily, "Do you really think my Ouyang clan is a soft persimmon that can be kneaded as you wish? You can think of it that way." Jun Changshao said. The Ouyang clan's elder was furious. Not happy. Jun Changshao squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "You can challenge me." The Ouyang clan's elders' faces turned ugly. If this arrogant iron-boned sect master wasn't the sword and martial king, they would definitely have challenged him to defend their clan's honor. So arrogant. If a person isn't arrogant, it's a waste of youth. The martial cultivators in the distance started to discuss. Although the Ouyang clan wasn't considered a top clan in King City, they still had a reputation. Sect Master Jun's arrogant provocation was simply unreasonable. If these martial cultivators knew about Lu Wanchu's past and the grievances she had suffered in the Ouyang clan, they wouldn't think that Jun Changshao had gone too far. Being beaten up only hurt in the heart. Being called a bastard by their blood-related relatives all day long, the pain was in their hearts. Sect Master Jun could imagine the scene of Lu Wanchu in the Ouyang clan being surrounded and called a bastard by her clan members. He could also imagine the scene of her crying helplessly in a corner. "My iron-boned sect's disciple was born to be doted on by me, not for you to humiliate and feel superior. Today, I will definitely destroy the Ouyang clan's place. Even Jesus can't save me." Whoosh 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 whoosh. For a moment, Jun Changxiao's martial king and sword martial king aura burst out, gathering two violent forces, rolling up a gust of wind and spreading in all directions. Wang! 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 The sword intent filled the area, and the sword at the martial cultivator's waist trembled violently, as if it could fly out of the sheath at any time. Ouyang clan, listen carefully. Jun Changxiao's eyes were cold as he shouted, "Those who bullied Lu Wanchu, get out here now." Under the contrast of the two forces of Sword Martial King, it was extremely domineering. Several Martial King realm elders of the Ouyang clan were affected by the two forces of Sword Martial King. They were so shocked that their faces changed greatly. In the Ouyang clan's inner and outer courts, the direct descendants who had humiliated Lu Wanchu were shocked. When they felt the cold aura, they were so scared that they almost collapsed to the ground. The anger from the Sword Martial King and Sword Martial King was not something that they, as martial disciples and martial masters, could contend with. This aura is so terrifying. Although many martial cultivators who were watching the show from afar did not feel the pressure from the power of the Sword Martial King and Sword Martial King, they were also shocked. At that moment, they had no doubt that if Sect Master Jun dared to burst out so unscrupulously in the market yesterday, he could definitely beat the gold and silver guardians to death. The Sword Martial King and Sword Martial King are indeed extraordinary. Situ Haoyun, who was standing on the building of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, exclaimed. The Vice Dean broke down and said, "He burst out so unscrupulously. The people of the Peace Order Hall will definitely not sit idly by." Chapter 5:16. The moment Jun Changxiao's aura erupted, the gold and silver guardians in the public security hall sensed it. Their spiritual senses spread over, and when they saw the person who released the aura, they broke down in unison. "Why is it this brat again? It's him, it's him, it's him. Yesterday he beat someone up and today he released his aura. Did he have the support of the two major organizations? Was that why he dared to be so unscrupulous?" As the administrators of the city's security, the gold and silver guardians definitely could not allow Jun Changxiao to do as he pleased. Therefore, they rushed over with their men. "My two protectors." At this moment, Princess Red Lotus appeared in front of the public security hall and said, "Sect Master Jun did not make a move and did not violate the city's laws. You don't have to care." The gold and silver guardians looked at each other, the corners of their mouths twitching. That fellow had released the aura of the sword and martial kings. If he were to make a move, it would be too late to stop him. However, since the princess had said so, they could only sit and watch. They could not be blamed if something happened. Therefore, the two brothers sat in the public security hall and leisurely sipped their tea. After appeasing the two guardians, Princess Red Lotus looked in the direction of the Ouyang family and thought to herself, Sect Master June, I hope you don't mess around in the city. Huff huff at the Ouyang family, Sect Master June's aura was still fully released. He was still suppressing the entire Ouyang family, giving them an indescribable pressure. He dared to release his aura in the monarch city, which was filled with experts. He was truly valiant. The experts of the Ouyang family standing at the door breathed heavily from the pressure. Their expressions turned increasingly ugly. At this moment, they were all secretly praying that the people from the public security hall would hurry over. Otherwise, if this brat really made a move, their family would definitely be in trouble. Brother, the tea is so fragrant. Not bad, not bad. The gold and silver guardians sitting in the public security hall were enjoying their tea. June Changshao said coldly, I'll give you 3 seconds to think about it. If you don't come out, don't blame me for barging in. 1. Sect Master June. A middle-aged man walked out of the residence and hurriedly cupped his hands. Please don't make things difficult for the Ouyang family on account that I'm Wancher's father. Ouyang Jun Lu Wancher's father. The two of them looked somewhat similar in terms of appearance. However, when he appeared, Lu Wancher, who was hiding behind June Changshao, clenched her fists tightly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with hatred. It was this person who caused his mother to miss him day and night, and in the end, she died of depression. It was this person who insisted on bringing him to the Ouyang family, and in the end, he was ridiculed and humiliated by others. Although June Changshao did not know what Lu Wancher was feeling right now, he could tell from her eyes. Thus, he said coldly, your daughter was humiliated in the family and was unable to protect her. What qualifications do you have to call yourself father? Ouyang Jun lowered his head in shame. The death of Lu Wancher's mother made him blame himself. So he found his daughter and brought her back to the Ouyang family, just to make up for the mistakes he had made when he was young. However, he had overlooked a cruel problem. Lu Wancher, who had no status, would definitely be treated unfairly when she came to a large family. When Ouyang Jun discovered this problem, his daughter could not bear it and left without saying goodbye. He had searched for her for a long time, but there was no news. 2. June Changshao shouted another number. At the same time, the sword martial force that permeated his body became even more intense. Wancher. Ouyang Jun looked at his daughter and said, ask sect leader Jun to stop. If there's anything, we can slowly discuss it as a family. Lu Wancher's small fists clenched tighter and tighter, but there was a painful entanglement in her eyes. She hated him. But in the end, he was still her father. June Changshao transmitted his voice, girl, if you compromise, I will bring you away. This trip was ultimately to stand up for his disciple. If she did not pursue the matter, he would definitely not forcefully seek justice for her. Woo woo, Lu Wancher cried. Then, she took a step forward, raised her head, and cried loudly, disciple has been wronged in the Ouyang family. Sect leader, please help me get it back. With a weak appearance, she shouted out a voice that resounded throughout the royal city. And every word was filled with grievances and resentment that had been suppressed for a long time. June Changshao placed his hand on the crying Lu Wancher's small head and shouted in a deep voice, 3. Whoosh whoosh. As soon as the voice fell, scorching flames instantly spread out, as if a tall and large fire-type beast was roaring. Not only did the flames carry a violent force, but they also carried boundless anger. The anger came from June Changshao, but it represented Lu Wancher. Since the person who bullied my disciple doesn't come out. Sect leader June gradually raised his hand and said expressionlessly, then let's smash the Ouyang family's door first. Whoosh whoosh. The flames that rose more than 10 meters quickly gathered together and instantly formed the flame chop. Jun Changshao, who was in a state of anger, condensed the scarlet sky raging flame chop, which was much stronger than the one he used in the academy yesterday. The expert from the academy who was in charge of probing released his spiritual senses to observe again. When he felt the explosive force, he was secretly shocked. If he used it yesterday, he would definitely suffer from internal injuries. Whoosh whoosh. The scorching flames roared crazily outside the Ouyang family's door, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly as if it had turned into a big furnace. Terrifying. The martial artists in the distance were dumbfounded. The Ouyang family's expert, who was targeted, actually broke out in cold sweat in this scorching environment. Jun Changshao. At this moment, a heavy voice came from the Ouyang family, "Don't be presumptuous." Whoosh. A white-haired old man flew out and landed in front of the mansion with anger in his eyes. He was surrounded by rich spiritual chi of heaven and earth. "Greetings, Grand Elder." Several Ouyang family elders hurriedly bowed. It's the only remaining Grand Elder of the Ouyang family. He seems to have been in seclusion for a long time. I wonder if he has broken through to Wu Huang. Judging from his aura, he seems to be stuck at the peak of the Martial King realm. Peak of the Martial King realm? Jun Changshao sneered and said, "Old man, as long as those who bullied my direct descendant come out and apologize, I won't be presumptuous." The Grand Elder of the Ouyang family stood with his hands behind his back and said coldly, "Jun Changshao, on behalf of the Ouyang family, I accept your challenge just now." Asking the direct descendant to come out and apologize in public was equivalent to trampling on the dignity of the Ouyang family, so he was more willing to fight. "Are you sure?" Jun Changshao asked. The Grand Elder of the Ouyang family pointed to the front and said, "You and I will go to the fighting arena to determine the winner." "Okay." Jun Changshao withdrew the condensed flame slash, and the power of the sword and martial kings was also restrained in his body. He brought Lu Wancher to the fighting arena. As the various forces and pressure dissipated, the direct descendant of the Ouyang family in the mansion suddenly felt relieved. They sat on the ground, drenched in sweat. If the Grand Elder hadn't appeared, once Jun Changshao broke into the Ouyang family, they would have been in trouble. The direct descendant of the Ouyang family who thought so had bullied Lu Wancher before. They had never thought that after an illegitimate daughter left, not only did she not die outside, but she also joined the Iron Bones sect and was led by the sect leader to settle old scores with them. "Damn it!" A direct descendant of the Ouyang family said angrily, "A bastard born outside dares to bring people to the family to cause trouble. The Grand Elder will not let her go easily." She didn't know that Jun Changshao, who was heading to the fighting arena, had unknowingly locked his spiritual thoughts on her. Chapter 5:17. There were many fighting stations in the 4 districts of Yunwu City. They were similar to the grievance station in Qingyang City. They were mainly used to settle the grievances between warriors. At this moment, tens of thousands of martial practitioners had gathered in front of the fighting station closest to the Ouyang family. More martial practitioners were rushing over from the well-developed streets. The supreme elder of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Li, who was at the peak of the martial king realm, was fighting against the leader of the Iron Bone clan, Jun Changshao, the dual king of martial arts. The upcoming battle would definitely attract a lot of attention. Even the strong ones who had reached the level of martial king had rushed over after hearing the news. It was rare for a peak martial king to fight. It was even rarer for a dual king of martial arts to fight. It was definitely a blessing to be able to witness it today. As more and more warriors gathered, the area around the fighting ring was bustling. At this time, if someone farted, no one would be able to catch the culprit. It was too crowded. What a big commotion. The gold and silver guardians were sitting in the public security hall, drinking tea leisurely. The 2 brothers were completely relieved now. That kid was fighting with the strong ones of the Ouyang family. Even if they fought fiercely, it would not be against the law. Princess Red Lotus also let out a long sigh of relief. She was really worried that Jun Changshao would fight in the Ouyang family. That would only embarrass her. But then again, he had just broken through to the dual king of martial arts. Could he fight against a peak martial king? In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Jun Changshao broke the void palm used by the higher-ups of the academy. Princess Red Lotus was very impressed. But it was just a test. If they really fought, the strong ones of the academy who were also peak martial kings might not be inferior to a dual king of martial arts. Theoretically, well, let's not talk about it. Let's get straight to the point. On the fighting ring, Jun Changshao and Ouyang Li stood in the center area, about 10 meters away from each other. Although the battle had not started, the contestants from both sides had already released their martial king auras and were secretly competing. A peak martial king against a dual king of martial arts. It is definitely an extremely rare battle. It is a blessing to be able to witness it. This battle will definitely be exciting. Jun Changshao and Ouyang Li had not fought yet, but the warriors below the stage were already anxious. They could not wait for them to fight immediately and give everyone a wonderful battle. Lu Wancher was extremely nervous. The Grand Elder was the most promising master of the Ouyang family to break through Wu Huang. If the sect leader fought with him, perhaps, don't let your imagination run wild. Don't let your imagination run wild. Lu Wancher shook her head and threw away all the bad thoughts. She secretly said in her heart, Sect Master is the strongest, he can definitely defeat all opponents. Sect Master Jun, Ouyang Li said indifferently, how will you and I decide the victor? As you wish, Jun Changshao said. Ouyang Li raised his hand and a 3 feet long sword appeared out of thin air. He said, let's fight with weapons. That's Master Fan's flowing cloud sword. Someone exclaimed. What? The surrounding martial artists all widened their eyes. Master Fan's name was like thunder in the falling star continent. He had forged countless swords in his life, but the number of swords that could reach the superior grade was less than double digits. The flowing cloud sword was one of them. It was said that after this sword was forged, the originally clear sky was suddenly shrouded by dark clouds that covered the sky and the sun. Thus, it was named Flowing Clouds. Although the Flowing Cloud sword was not a peak sword forged by Master Fan, it was definitely one of the best among the superior grade swords. No wonder Grand Elder Ouyang wants to use weapons to decide the victor. So there is such a divine weapon. Ouyang Li took out the Flowing Cloud sword, which immediately caused quite a commotion. Jun Changshao sneered. Even a top-grade high-grade sword dared to be called a divine weapon. Then wouldn't his green dragon crescent blade and hard-to-keep blade be called supreme divine weapons passed down from ancient times? Sect Master Jun, Ouyang Li said proudly, show me your weapons. He knew that Jun Changshao was the Sword King. But he still dared to choose to use weapons because his cultivation was high and he had a high-quality weapon. He could definitely win easily. Shua. Jun Changshao raised his hand and the mid-grade cold ray sword appeared out of thin air. He said, you dare to use a sword to duel in front of the Sword King. I admire your courage. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. You are the Sword King, and the other party is a peak martial king. Why don't you have the courage? If it was a low-grade martial king, daring to challenge the Sword King would undoubtedly be asking for a beating. However, the martial king realm was extremely high and could make up for the gap in swordsmanship. Not to mention, the Ouyang family's Grand Elder also had the superior grade Flowing Cloud sword. If they fought, it would be very difficult for the Iron Bone Sect Master to win. Sect Master Jun, Ouyang Li said, can we begin? We can begin. Clang! As soon as he finished speaking, the Flowing Cloud sword was unsheathed and a bright sword light flashed. Although Ouyang Li was not a swordsman, he had also practiced swordsmanship. With a flick of his wrist, spiritual energy gathered in the body of his sword, forming waves of sword energy that swept toward Jun Changshao. Stormy Wave Sword Technique. Oh my god, this is also a sword art of the superior grade. Although Grand Elder Ouyang is not a sword cultivator, he is very strong and has the support of a high-grade sword. The power must be extraordinary. Everyone exclaimed. Ouyang raised his eyebrows proudly. Facing the waves of sword chi, Jun Changshao said indifferently, trash. Trash. Ouyang frowned slightly. Whoosh. 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 At this moment, Jun Changshao stepped forward and used the single-word speed formula. Sword shadows filled the sky and instantly interweaved into an inescapable net. The entire fighting stage was filled with sword chi. The spectators all opened their mouths and their eyes were filled with intense shock. Ouyang also opened his eyes wide. Although he released his spiritual thoughts, he could not accurately determine whether this guy had used 200 or 300 sword moves in one breath. In short, there were many. Whoosh. 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 The strong sword chi pressed over without any blind spots and directly dissolved the waves of sword chi. Whoosh. In the sky full of sword shadows, countless sword chi swept over. The speed was so fast that Ouyang turned pale with fright. In a hurry, he raised his sword to block. Ding! The sword chi slashed the flowing cloud sword fiercely. Ouyang's whole body retreated uncontrollably. Jun Changshao quickly caught up with him. The sword aura that filled the fighting stage whistled and spread outside the stage, colliding with the swords of the various martial artists. Clang! 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 Hundreds of swords were drawn out, dragging streams of light behind them as they flew towards Jun Changshao. Whoosh! Under the influence of the sword force, the swords gathered together and turned into an even bigger sword. Everyone was dumbfounded. 10,000 swords returned to one. Jun Changshao coldly shouted and slashed down with the cold sword in his hand. The huge sword in the sky was like a collapsed mountain. It carried an unparalleled sword force and pressed down on the retreating Ouyang. Whoosh! The sword force erupted and the wind howled. Ouyang, who was retreating, was shocked. A strong sense of danger surged in his heart. This sword was very strong. What to do, what to do? The only thing Ouyang could do now was to dodge. However, the huge sword was too big and there were sword forces pressing down on him from both sides. He could only continue to retreat. However, if he continued to retreat, he would be out of the fighting stage. He did not have much time to think. He immediately followed the inertia and retreated out of the fighting stage. Even so, he was still within the attack range of the huge sword. Furthermore, it was about to crash down. Ouyang angrily raised his sword and placed it in front of him. Boundless spiritual energy was poured into the sword. Obviously, he could only take it head-on. Boom! The huge sword, which seemed to be formed by thousands of swords, slashed down. The violent sword force was like a wave that roared out. Ka ka ka! The floor of the fighting stage suddenly shattered. The spectators who were closer to the fight were swept back by the sword force and fell to the ground. Chapter 5:18. When Jun Changshao used the first form of the 10,000 swords returned to origin, when the giant sword formed by hundreds of swords slashed down, the platform was shaken into a mess by the sword momentum. The spectators closest to the battle were even more miserable. They were shaken and retreated. In the end, they couldn't withstand the air waves and fell down in large groups. At that moment, if one looked down from above, they would see that the moment the sword momentum spread out, the fallen crowd was like layers of ripples. Whoosh whoosh. The sword momentum was still moving, but its power was gradually weakening. The cultivators who fell to the ground stood up with difficulty, their eyes filled with shock. The cold sword intent that came wantonly just now made their hair stand on end. They even suspected that they were going to die. They were still alive. They were still safe and sound. The affected cultivators felt like they had survived a disaster. However, when they raised their heads and looked at the platform, they couldn't help but gasp. A deep sword mark was left in the air, as if the sky had been directly torn apart. The spectators who were far away were not affected by the sword momentum. At this moment, they were staring at the platform. Oh Yangli stood there, his hands holding the sky. However, the flowing cloud sword in front of him was broken in half. There was a bright red sword mark on his chest. From this situation, although he raised his sword in time and poured in a majestic spiritual energy to support it, he still couldn't block Jun Changxiao's 10,000 swords return to origin. However, fortunately, Oh Yangli decisively chose to retreat after realizing that something was wrong. Although he couldn't completely escape the attack range, he was only scratched on the chest and didn't suffer any fatal injuries. If he didn't retreat, he would still be standing on the platform. This peak martial king's fate would be the same as the flowing cloud sword. He would be cut in half. Clang! Jun Changxiao sheathed his sword and said proudly, "I am the king of swordsmanship. I'm not someone a dabbler like you can compete with." Although he pretended to be cool, he was actually shocked in his heart. He said, "The first form of the 10,000 swords returned to origin is too terrifying." After comprehending it for so long, Sect leader Jun himself didn't expect it to be so powerful that it could directly scare a peak martial king away. However, it also consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Jun Changxiao's sword slashed out and the energy in his spirit nucleus was almost depleted. If it weren't for the 2 spirit nuclei, his body would have swayed and his face would have been weak. More importantly, when Jun Changxiao saw Oh Yangli retreat and leave the platform, he held back a lot of energy. If he slashed out in full state, the energy of the spirit nucleus would definitely be sucked dry. The 10,000 swords returned to one was indeed powerful, but it could not be casually used. Otherwise, it would be detrimental to the later battles, unless one could defeat the enemy in one move. Ding! Side mission completed. Reward, 2,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 770210000. Oh Yangli appeared and accepted the challenge. The system then issued a side mission to defeat the other party. Jun Changxiao thought to himself unhappily, defeating a peak martial king only gives me 2,000 points. That is too little. The system was speechless. It was getting harder and harder to satisfy the host. Outside the platform, the spectating martial cultivators all widened their eyes in disbelief. It's over. Regardless of whether Oh Yangli still had the ability to fight, he had already lost the battle. Poor him. Not only did he lose, but his flowing cloud sword was also broken. Found out. Master Fan, who they had only heard of, had never seen, and the weapon he forged was just a stepping stone for Sect leader Jun to show off. Of course. The top experts didn't care that the battle was over. What they cared about was the terrifying combat power Jun Changxiao had displayed in that short exchange. Especially the huge sword, which left a sword mark in the air that couldn't be healed for a long time. It was extremely frightening. Was this the terror of the sword and martial kings? Pooh! Oh Yangli, who was standing outside the platform, spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked like he had aged 100 years in an instant. His injuries weren't serious. The reason he spat out blood was because his precious flowing cloud sword was damaged. Jun Changxiao stood proudly on the platform. He glanced at the Ouyang's and said indifferently, "You can continue to challenge me." Very arrogant. Very arrogant. But the elders of the Ouyang's all lowered their heads. Obviously, they didn't dare to accept the challenge. Even the Grand Elder, who was half a step away from Wu Huang, was defeated so easily. If they went up, they would definitely be looking for trouble. Jun Changshao said in a deep voice, since no one dares to accept the challenge, then quickly call out all the direct descendants of the Ouyang's who bullied my disciple and apologize one by one. Defeating Ouyangli wasn't over yet. Today, he had to seek justice for Lu Wanshi. He had to let the Ouyang's understand that the debt they owed must be paid even if it was a long time ago. Actually, sect leader Jun didn't go overboard. He just wanted the direct descendants who had humiliated Lu Wanshi to apologize one by one. However, apologizing in public was equivalent to trampling on the dignity of the Ouyang's. They would definitely be very resistant. Sigh. Ouyangli sighed and turned to leave. His back view looked extremely old. They had lost this battle. It also meant that the Ouyang's had lost. Outside the gate of the Ouyang's, many martial artists gathered again and were discussing the battle between the kings. To be honest, Jun Changshao used the 10,000 swords unification to defeat Ouyangli. It happened too quickly. Ordinary martial artists couldn't keep up with the rhythm. Other than the huge swords that gathered and the space that was cut open, it seemed that this battle between the kings wasn't as exciting as they had imagined. This was what ordinary martial artists thought. Those high-level martial artists were still in deep shock. A peak martial king who could enter Wu Huang's realm at any time was easily defeated. This guy's strength was probably invincible among the king stage, right? This was hard to say. Because the strength that sect leader Jun showed just now came from the 10,000 swords unification. If he didn't use this move, he might not be able to defeat Ouyangli so easily. Creak. At this moment, the gate of the Ouyang's was pushed open. The direct descendants of the Ouyang's walked out dejectedly. After the Grand Elder was defeated by Jun Changshao, the Ouyang's chose to apologize after a difficult choice. There was no other way. If they didn't apologize, Jun Changshao would definitely not give up. If they destroyed the gate of the Ouyang's and made a scene inside, the dignity of the family would only be trampled even more. Moreover, the people from the public security hall didn't appear. Obviously, they were pretending that they didn't see anything. This kind of existence that even the gold and silver guardians are afraid of, if my Ouyang's insist on holding on, it will definitely be more unlucky. I'm sorry, I was wrong. A direct descendant of the Ouyang's who had humiliated Lu Wanshi bowed. Louder. Jun Changshao said indifferently. The direct descendant closed his eyes and said loudly, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Next. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Next. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Chapter 519. Hundreds of direct descendants of the Ouyang family lined up to apologize in front of everyone. This scene would definitely be widely spread. Then, how to distinguish who had bullied Lu Wanshi? It was very simple. Jun Changshao made the youngest generation of direct descendants of the Ouyang family come out to apologize, regardless of whether they had bullied her or not. This was called killing the wrong person rather than letting them go. Lu Wanshi stood proudly, looking at the direct descendants of the Ouyang family who didn't even dare to raise their heads. At first, she just wanted to escape and didn't want to have anything to do with the Ouyang family. Now that the people who had humiliated her bowed and apologized in front of her, she realized how satisfying it was. Master. Lu Wanshi transmitted her voice, thank you. If he didn't bring her to the Ouyang family to seek justice, the grievances in her heart would follow her forever. Girl. Jun Changshao said, you're treating me as an outsider. Lu Wanshi smiled brightly and said, Master is the closest person to Du, the person who is willing to cook for a lifetime. We agreed on a lifetime. You can't miss a month, a day, or even 2 hours, Jun Changshao said. Lu Wanshi nodded heavily. However, when a female direct descendant of the Ouyang family walked over, her smile froze. Her 2 big eyes contained coldness. Ouyangli. the eldest cousin of the Ouyang family's younger generation. During the time she lived in the family, this woman was the one who bullied Lu Wancher the most. She was the one who took the lead to shout the word, bastard. The current master of the Ouyang family was Ouyang Li's father. Her mother was also from another powerful family in the capital. In the family, Ouyang Li was definitely the beloved daughter of the Ouyang family. Her status was not inferior to many of her cousins who had extraordinary talents. Lu Wancher was like Cinderella in front of her. It was because of the huge difference in status that Ouyang Li never looked at Lu Wancher. She even thought that this kind of illegitimate daughter shouldn't be in the family, so as not to become a laughingstock. Ouyang Li, who boasted of her noble bloodline, was like a proud swan every day, using the most arrogant words to humiliate Lu Wancher. What a coincidence! The person Jun Changshao used his spiritual sense to lock onto was also her. I used the aura of the sword and martial king to suppress her, and she still dared to say the word, bastard, afterwards. This woman really didn't repent. Beep beep. Jun Changshao said, fight. Pa, Lu Wancher swung her hand and slapped her face. You. Ouyang Li covered her red left cheek, her eyes filled with anger. Lu Wancher said coolly, you wouldn't have thought that I, Lu Wancher, would return in such a manner one day, right? The anger in Ouyang Li's eyes intensified. Continue, Jun Changshao said. Pa. 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 Lu Wancher continued to wave her palms. Ouyang Li's face, which could be considered pretty and moving, immediately became swollen. Ouyang family head witnessed the whole process. Although he clenched his fists tightly and was burning with anger, he did not dare to say a word. It was because when Lu Wancher made her move, Jun Changxiao's terrifying sword force had already spread out. As long as someone from the Ouyang clan dared to make a move, he would definitely attack without restraint. There was qi. Hold it in. Not convinced? Bear with it. Outside the Ouyang family's gate, Lu Wancher slapping the daughter of the Ouyang family's patriarch would definitely become a hot topic. Do. After all the young generation's direct descendants bowed and apologized, Jun Changshao said, let's go. Lu Wancher started to follow. However, after taking 2 steps, she stopped and said, in the culinary competition 3 days later, I will use my culinary skills to defeat you direct descendants of the Ouyang clan. The Ouyang clan had always been focused on culinary skills, and martial arts was only secondary. Using culinary skills to defeat them was definitely a double trampling on their dignity. After Jun Changshao left with Lu Wancher, all the direct descendants of the Ouyang clan returned to the clan. The red gate was tightly shut, and the upper echelons were all trembling with anger. Ouyang Jun. An elder said angrily, this is your good daughter who made my Ouyang clan lose face in the royal city. Ouyang Jun's face was extremely ugly. However, to be honest, when the direct descendants of the clan apologized to his daughter one by one, he felt a sense of relief from the depths of his heart. Patriarch, I am ashamed to face the ancestors of the Ouyang clan, and I have no face to stay in the clan. I will leave today and never return. Ouyang Jun said sorrowfully. Humph. All the elders snorted coldly. Ouyang Jun didn't say anything else. He didn't even pack his luggage and left the Ouyang clan with a guilty heart. In the inn's cafeteria, Lu Wancher was holding a bowl and eating rice in big mouthfuls. After so many years of grievances were vented, it made her very happy, and her appetite grew. Eat slowly, don't choke, Jun Changshao said with a smile. He might be violent to the Gathering Heroes Hall's students, but to his own disciples, he was afraid that they would melt in his hands. Lu Wancher drank a mouthful of soup and opened her mouth that was covered in rice. She smiled and said, Patriarch, this is the first time I feel that the food made by an outsider is so delicious. Jun Changshao said, when your mood is good, everything you eat is delicacies. I want another bowl of rice. Waiter, 2 more bowls. All right, guest, please wait a moment. Lu Wancher, who was in a good mood, ate 3 bowls of rice before leaning against the chair. Lass. June Changshao said, let me ask you a question. What question? Do you hate your father? Yes. Lu Wancher answered without thinking. June Changshao said, I brought you to the Ouyang family to cause trouble. Your father's future days will definitely not be good. That's his problem, it has nothing to do with me, Lu Wancher said. June Changshao shook his head and said, no matter what, he is still your father. Even if he did something wrong, you have to give him a chance to forgive, right? Lu Wancher was silent. Moreover, June Changshao said, he still cares about you, otherwise he wouldn't have brought you back to the Ouyang family. Although you were bullied, his original intention was for you to live a good life, and not wander around alone outside. Patriarch. Lu Wancher said with a firm gaze, I no longer have any involvement with the Ouyang family, including him. These words. June Changshao pointed outside and said, you can talk to him yourself. Lu Wancher was startled and turned around. Ouyang Jun stood at the door of the inn with a complicated look in his eyes. He wanted to call out to his daughter, but he swallowed back the words. This is not the place to talk. You can go upstairs, June Changshao said. Patriarch, he is your father, not an enemy. Even if he was in the wrong first, as a daughter, you should give him a chance to redeem himself. Lu Wancher was silent. She got up and walked to the 2nd floor with a pout. It seemed that she was going to give Ouyang Jun a chance to redeem himself. Hurry up and go. June Changshao said, are you standing outside and basking in the sun? Thank you, Patriarch Jun. Ouyang Jun hurriedly cupped his hands and followed his daughter. June Changshao drank a glass of wine and left the inn, heading to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. To be honest, he didn't have a good impression of Ouyang Jun. But after all, he was Lu Wancher's biological father. No matter what, he had to give him a chance to turn over a new leaf. Patriarch Jun wouldn't get involved in the matter between this father and daughter. And he was heading to the Heavenly Mandate Academy to continue to train the giant babies in the Jueying Hall. Otherwise, how could he get along well with the disciples if he joined the Iron Bone sect with pride? Today's lesson is. June Changxiao's lips curled up into a devilish smile as he said, run 1,000 laps around the field. Ah. Who has an opinion? No objections, Teacher June. Hurry up and go. Yes. The school's field was usually used by the instructors to instruct the students outdoors. Some students who didn't have classes also liked to come here to cultivate. At this moment, the students in the field were all dumbfounded because the geniuses of Gathering Heroes Hall were circling around them. Was this still those arrogant young masters who were usually so arrogant? You're not allowed to use spirit power. Use your purest body to run. June Changxiao stood with his hands behind his back and shouted like an officer. Yes. Everyone shouted in unison. Because they were afraid of Teacher June's violent destruction, they really didn't dare to use spirit power and ran with their 2 legs. 1,000 laps. This was a terrifying number. They only ran more than 30 laps and their faces were flushed red and dripping with sweat. The school's field was very big. 1 lap was at least 5 or 6 li. After running more than 30 laps, it was almost 200 li. Without using spirit power to drive, they still had to run at the fastest time. Relying on their own strength, it was definitely an extremely painful torture. As for 1,000 laps, not to mention the students who were martial masters, even if a martial king came, it would be impossible to run with pure physical strength in such a short time. No. I can't. After running 100 laps, a student directly collapsed on the ground. The others also began to fall behind. They didn't care about how noble their identities were and sat on the ground one by one. June Changxiao didn't punish them and continued to observe the others running. He thought to himself, among these pampered young masters, there is no lack of people with strong physical bodies. If they join the Iron Bone School and train in the forging room and training tower, they will definitely have a good improvement. Some people would ask, isn't it too low for a martial cultivator from another world to let them run? Actually, sect leader June didn't do this to let them temper their bodies. The main purpose was to destroy the arrogance of these young masters. TSK, a group of young masters from big families running around the field. I really didn't expect this. Sect leader June is still the best. If it were other teachers, they would have already caused a ruckus. That's why evil people need to be dealt with by evil people. The teachers in the distance gathered together and discussed in low voices. Dean. The vice dean broke down and said, the students of Gathering Heroes Hall are all very pampered. Letting them run around in front of everyone is undoubtedly trampling on their self-esteem. Situ Haoyun said, aren't they running quite happily? The vice dean muttered in his heart, Jun Changshao is violent at the slightest disagreement. They must be running happily. 1000 laps was just a casual remark from sect leader June. In fact, without using spiritual power, the students of Gathering Heroes Hall couldn't do it in a short period of time. So after running for a while, they all collapsed on the ground in exhaustion. At this moment, they didn't care that their classmates were looking at them. They just wanted to lie on the grass for a while and enjoy the comfortable feeling of relaxing their muscles. That's all for today. Jun Changshao said, we'll continue tomorrow. Ah. Huo Ling and the others lay on the ground, looking like they had nothing to live for. After the class, Jun Changshao returned to the inn. Yang Jun stood outside the guest room and waited. When he saw him return, he hurriedly cupped his hands and said, Sect leader Jun, thank you for taking care of Wancher this year. Jun Changshao said, she is my disciple. It's only right to take care of her. Sect leader Jun, Yang Jun said, I'll leave Wancher to you. With that, he turned to leave. Creak. At this moment, Lu Wancher pushed open the door and said indifferently, Sect leader, the sect still lacks a chef. That's true. Jun Changshao said, since you've already left the Ouyang family, are you interested in coming to my Iron Bone? His spiritual sense had already captured what Yang Jun had said in the Ouyang family, and he knew that the other party was chasing after him. That was why he took the initiative to ask Lu Wancher and provide an opportunity for the father and daughter to communicate. I'm interested. Yang Jun said. He didn't care about being a chef in Iron Bone. He just wanted to be with his daughter and make up for what he owed her in the past. After the culinary competition is over, follow me back to Iron Bone, Jun Changshao said. Okay. Yang Jun said. Lu Wancher snorted coldly, then closed the door and continued to study Chinese recipes. Jun Changshao shook his head and thought to himself, this broken father-daughter relationship still needs some time to repair. Chapter 521. The next day. Jun Changshao went to the Heavenly Mandate Academy again and gave the students of the Zhuyin clan a good beating. After 3 days, these giant babies were taught a lesson. Even the troublemaker Chu Xiunan had to sit up straight when he came to the academy. He didn't dare to put his legs on the table. Were they that cowardly? Of course not. Some of the direct descendants went back to their families and told them about the abuse, hoping that their families would stand up for them. The answer they got was that it was fine as long as they were fine. It was fine as long as they were fine. Some of the higher-ups even reprimanded their direct descendants, telling them to put more effort into martial arts and not get into trouble. It seemed that it wasn't the students who were cowardly, but their families. The news that sect leader Jun went to deal with the Ouyang clan arrogantly was still spreading. The major families were naturally afraid. Even the Chu clan, the leader of the 8 major families, didn't say anything when they learned that Chu Xiunan had been abused several times. They didn't care. The Chu clan wasn't afraid of Jun Changshao. They were afraid of the two major organizations behind him. Moreover, they received news that the guy went to the Ouyang clan's place. Princess Red Lotus went to the public security hall, but the gold and silver guardians didn't come out. Instead, they were drinking tea leisurely. There was definitely something fishy going on. Thinking of the city lord's drunken words at his birthday, the Chu clan suddenly realized that this Jun Changshao might become the son-in-law of Yunwu City. It was scary to think about it. If their families didn't stand up for them, the students of the Zhuyin clan could only admit defeat. But then again, after the first class, they benefited a lot from sect leader Jun's guidance. Their martial arts improved more or less. Unsurprisingly, as long as they followed the correct guidance to comprehend the mental cultivation method, it would be easy to reach a higher level. After the students who had opinions about sect leader Jun gradually benefited, their attitudes changed and they worshipped him. If he kept teaching them, breaking through to Wuzong was just around the corner. Unfortunately, Jun Changshao didn't come to the Heavenly Mandate Academy the next day, which made them quite depressed. Tomorrow is the culinary competition. Teacher Jun's disciples will also participate. We must go and watch, Huo Ling said in the academy. Within the Zhuyin Hall, he was the one who worshipped Jun Changshao the most. A student said in surprise, not only is that girl's martial arts high, but she also knows how to cook. After all, she is Ouyang Jun's daughter. It is normal for her to inherit the cooking talent of the Ouyang family. Since he's teacher Jun's disciple, we definitely have to go and support him. Because the culinary competition had nothing to do with martial arts, its audience had never been high. Lu Wancher was Jun Changshao's disciple, which piqued the interest of the Gathering Heroes Hall's students. They decided to go to the competition venue tomorrow to watch. The martial cultivators in King City were also discussing this matter. They also planned to go and watch the cooking competition. The main reason was that before Lu Wancher left the Ouyang family, she had said that she would use her culinary skills to defeat the Ouyang family's direct descendant. The Ouyang clan's martial arts were mediocre, but their culinary skills were renowned far and wide. A little girl dared to speak such arrogant words, which made them especially curious. In the guest room, Lu Wancher served the kung pao chicken that she had just made and said with a smile, "Sect master, have a taste." She had been studying Chinese recipes for the past 2 days and had learned many new dishes. Kung pao chicken was a traditional Chinese dish. It was included in both Shandong cuisine and Sichuan cuisine. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changshao was full of praise after eating a mouthful of it. Hee hee. Lu Wancher smiled brightly. However, when she saw Ouyang Jun walk in, she snorted, turned around, and walked out. "Mr. Ouyang," Jun Changshao said, "this is the dish that Du just made. Have a taste." Ouyang Jun walked forward, picked up a peanut with his chopsticks, and gently put it in his mouth to chew. Judging from these orderly steps, it was obvious that he was an expert in the field of food. After tasting it carefully, Ouyang Jun's expression changed again and again. In the end, he exclaimed in disbelief, Is this made by Wancher?" In the Ouyang family, in terms of martial arts, he might not be the best, but in terms of culinary skills, he was definitely top-notch. Just one bite of the dish made by his daughter made it difficult for him to calm down. Naturally, Jun Changshao said. Ouyang Jun was overjoyed. "I didn't expect my daughter to have such high culinary skills." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Now you know that your daughter has a talent in cooking. You are really incompetent as a father." Ouyang Jun lowered his head in shame. "There's still a long way to go." Jun Changshao said, "Make up for it slowly." Ouyang Jun cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, sect leader Jun, for giving me a chance. I will work hard to be a good father." He knew that if it weren't for Jun Changshao, he would never be able to get close to his daughter, let alone be taken in to make up for his father's debt. "How about this dish?" Jun Changshao went back to the topic. Ouyang Jun had too many words to describe it, but thousands of words were just water, so he condensed it into one sentence: it's delicious. To be able to get such praise from the top chef of Southwest Yangzhou was definitely not because of his daughter. Jun Changshao said, participating in the cooking competition, it's a sure thing. Sect leader Ouyang Jun said weakly, what's the name of this dish? Kung Pao chicken. Kung Pao chicken. Ouyang Jun was familiar with all kinds of cuisines, but he had never heard of this dish. The next day. The eastern square of Yunwu City, the location of the cooking competition. It was just dawn, and many martial cultivators had already gathered. They were talking in low voices, and every 3 sentences were about the previous incident where Jun Changshao smashed the Ouyang family's place. Many of the martial cultivators didn't witness the Battle of Kings on the platform with their own eyes, and their faces were full of regret. It didn't matter. The Iron Bone disciples were also going to participate in the cooking competition. Jun Changshao, the king of sword and martial arts, would definitely come. At that time, they would also be able to see his glory. So many martial cultivators gathered in the early morning. Most of them didn't come to watch the cooking competition, but for sect leader Jun gradually. The major families and individual cultivators of Yunwu City came to the square. They consciously found a suitable viewing area and waited quietly. Oh no! Someone exclaimed, the students of the Jueying Hall of the Heavenly Mandate Academy are also here. As soon as this remark came out, the whole square suddenly became chaotic. Many of the martial cultivators who lived in the city all year round avoided them, and their eyes were filled with deep fear. The students of the Jueying Hall not only caused headaches in the academy, but they were also tyrannical outside. As long as they went to a place, there would definitely be a show to watch. However, when Chu Xiaonan and Hualing came to the square, all the martial cultivators were dumbfounded because this group of arrogant young masters seemed to be different from before. How was it different? There was no arrogance on their faces, and their arrogance had weakened a lot. It was as if they were different people. What made the martial cultivators even more surprised was that after this group of young masters arrived, they stood neatly, as if they were soldiers who had undergone strict training. What was going on? Could it be that they had all learned well? Seeing the students of the Jueying Hall behave so well, everyone was dumbfounded. Sect leader Jun is here. It was unknown who shouted loudly. In an instant, everyone turned to look and saw Jun Changshao walking over with Lu Wanshi at the end of the street. Teacher Jun. The students of the Jueying Hall shouted loudly, good morning. Chapter 522. The sudden shout of the Jueying Hall students startled all the martial cultivators, and their expressions immediately became interesting. They could see that this group of young masters was shouting for Jun Changshao, so this teacher Jun must be referring to him. Did they hear or see wrong? A group of arrogant and domineering direct descendants of big families actually greeted him so respectfully. Wait. Teacher. Jun. Wasn't he the headmaster of Iron Bone? How did he become a teacher? In everyone's understanding, only the instructors of the Heavenly Mandate Academy could enjoy the title of teacher. Situ Haoyun did not announce that Master Jun was hired as an honorary instructor of the academy, so only the big families in the city received the news. Why are you here? Jun Changshao walked over with Lu Wanshi and asked. Hualing grinned and said, Teacher Jun's disciple is participating in the culinary competition. As your students, we naturally have to cheer for you. Your students? Many warriors heard this and immediately realized that Jun Changshao was an instructor of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Oh my God! This was breaking news. The instructors of the Heavenly Mandate Academy depended on seniority and age. If Jun Changshao was really an instructor, he would definitely be the youngest. Needless to say, Master Jun, who enjoyed the benefits of an official instructor, was definitely the youngest instructor in the history of the academy. Jun Changshao said with relief, You are teachable, teachable. As he said this, He led Lu Wanshi to the square. At this moment, hundreds of stoves were arranged in the central area of the square. However, when Jun Changshao arrived, no one paid attention to the competition props. All eyes were locked on him, giving people the feeling that he was a big star. About half an hour later, 200,000 to 300,000 people gathered in the square. In the past, this kind of competition that had nothing to do with martial arts would attract 20,000 to 30,000 people. An elder of the Shin family, the organizer, walked to the temporary stage and said, "Thank you for coming to watch this year's culinary competition. Next, let us warmly welcome the contestants." Silence. There was no applause. The elder of the Shin family was super embarrassed. At several entrances, contestants walked in one after another, most of them young. "Headmaster." Lu Wanshi took a deep breath and said, "Disciple will go as well." "Go ahead," Jun Changshao said. However, when Lu Wanshi walked out, she encouraged him, "As an iron-bone disciple, you must never give up." "Yes." Lu Wanshi nodded and followed the contestants to the square platform. At that moment, she seemed to feel that her senior brothers and sisters were watching her from the sky. Thus, she raised her head and said with a firm gaze, "Dudu will not let you down. Junior sister. We are still alive." More than 300 contestants stood on the stage in the square, their eyes burning with passion. Some of these people came from King City, while others came from other cities in southwest Yangzhou. They were definitely the most outstanding culinary geniuses. Participating in the cooking competition and winning the championship was their goal. Of course, there were also direct descendants of the Ouyang family. They intentionally or unintentionally looked at Lu Wanshi with a hint of anger in their eyes. Apologizing in front of so many people at their doorstep, they must be feeling very indignant. Especially when they thought about how this woman shamelessly said that she would use her culinary skills to defeat them before leaving. This was even more unbearable. The Ouyang family's culinary skills had been passed down for a long time, and they were extremely famous in southwest Yangzhou. They had won many championships in the previous cooking competitions. They could be lacking in martial arts, but they were absolutely confident in culinary skills. The culinary geniuses participating in this competition all had the determination to break the legend of the Ouyang family. Simply put, the Ouyang family's culinary skills were similar to Huaxia's table tennis team, completely beating southwest Yangzhou. "Humph," one of the Ouyang family's direct descendants sneered, "when the competition starts, I will let you understand that using culinary skills to defeat my Ouyang family is a fantasy. Let's not talk nonsense." The Shin family's elder said, "Let's warmly welcome the judges of this cooking competition." Clap, clap, clap. Scattered applause sounded, and it didn't seem awkward. It wasn't to give face to the cooking competition, but to the judges. Because those who entered were all famous people in King City, and there was no lack of family heads among them. The cooking competition was about color, aroma, and taste. So, the quality of the food depended on how the judges judged it. After the 10 judges were in place, the Shin family's elder said loudly, 300 contestants, please enter the stove." Whoosh! Whoosh! Everyone dispersed and chose the stove that they liked. Lu Wanshi chose the one closest to Jun Changshao, who was watching the competition. When she arrived, she grinned at the sect leader, but when she saw her father was also there, she retracted her smile. The contestants were in place. The Shin family carried baskets filled with all kinds of ingredients and placed them beside the stove. The ingredients, materials, and cooking props for the cooking competition were all provided by the Shin family. The contestants couldn't prepare their own to avoid cheating. The Shin family's elder said, "Contestants, please make your signature dish within an hour. The top 100 with the highest score will advance to the second round." Competition, he dragged his voice and said, "Let's start." If this was a martial arts competition, the spectators would be very excited. But at this moment, there was no fluctuation in their hearts. They even wanted to laugh. The first round of the cooking competition began, and the contestants began to prepare. The first step was naturally to start a fire. Whoosh! Whoosh! Many people released their own flames. Damn! Jun Changshao said in surprise, they are all fire-type martial cultivators. So many fire-type martial cultivators came to participate in the cooking competition. Their goal was too small. The system said, they are not pure fire-type martial cultivators. They only temporarily possess the fire-type attribute. Temporarily? Jun Changshao said in surprise, what do you mean? The system said, after my analysis, I learned that there is a kind of fire elemental pill in the falling star continent. After consuming it, one can possess the fire-type attribute for a certain period of time. So magical. Jun Changshao said in surprise. You bought the exquisite fire from the system store and directly became a fire-type martial cultivator. The system said, although magical, the condensed fire-type attribute cannot be compared with a real fire-type martial cultivator. It can only be used to start a fire and cook. I see. No wonder the spectators were not surprised when so many contestants released their flames. They definitely knew that they were not real leather sofas, but artificial leather. Out of the 300 contestants, 299 of them released their flames. The only one who did not use it was Lu Wancher. She even used the most primitive method to start a fire, and then added wood. She looked very serious. This girl did not use the fire elemental pill. Others are about to start their fire, but she is still slowly igniting it. If she exceeds the time limit, it will be equivalent to losing the competition. Because of her identity as an Iron Bone disciple, Lu Wancher's every move attracted the attention of the martial cultivators. Whoosh! Many contestants started their fires one after another. Some did not even use firewood, and simply used the condensed flames to heat the bottom of the pot. Lu Wancher shook her head and said, using a flame that does not belong to you to cook, even if you can fill your stomach, you will not have a soul. Chapter 523. The heart-wrenching culinary competition, under everyone's fervent anticipation, finally, looking at those martial cultivators standing outside, yawning with a bored face, the author really couldn't make up any more stories. Sigh. In a world where martial arts were respected, it was too difficult to arouse everyone's passion in a culinary competition. However, the contestants at the stove were all focused on waving their kitchen knives, skillfully cutting the ingredients. Others could look down on them, but they couldn't look down on themselves. Since they had embarked on the path of culinary arts, they had to concentrate wholeheartedly. There was no distinction between professions. If one was in a profession, one should love it. Don't ask who was in a profession. Whoosh whoosh. The flames released by the contestants burned crazily under the stove. The sound represented their passion for culinary arts. Sizzle. After heating up the oil in the wok, someone threw the cut ingredients in and started to stir-fry skillfully. Although the contestants were young, they were all experienced chefs, and their skills were definitely not weak. As the ingredients and seasonings were added into the wok, after stir-frying, there was a burst of fragrance. The martial cultivators who were dozing off sniffed lightly and instantly became alert. Not everyone could cultivate martial arts, but everyone had to eat food. Hence, the power of food was very strong. It smells so good. Smelling the fragrance in the air, everyone's appetite was aroused. The ones who paid the most attention were naturally the 10 Ouyang family descendants. Because the dishes they stir-fried were more fragrant than the other contestants. Judging from the fragrance alone, everyone from the Ouyang family would definitely advance in the first round of the competition. This kind of thing was the most common in previous culinary competitions. However, when all the contestants were cooking, only Lu Wancher had just started the fire and placed the required ingredients neatly on the chopping board. Everyone's mouth twitched slightly. Some of the other contestants were almost done. You haven't even finished cutting the ingredients. Your speed is too slow. What made them collapse even more was, after placing the ingredients, Lu Wancher closed her eyes and clasped her hands together as if she was praying. "Miss, if we were hungry customers, I'm afraid we would starve to death by the time you serve the dishes." Swish! Lu Wancher waved her small hand and skillfully took the kitchen knife, cutting the ingredients smoothly. Tisk, the direct descendant of the Ouyang clan, glanced at it and said in disdain, "This knife skill is not even as good as the servants of my Ouyang clan." Since it was her first time participating in the cooking competition, Lu Wancher was very cautious. Her knife skills were also focused on stability. She didn't pay attention to anything fancy. If you really showed it to them, they would definitely be scared to death. Why? Because Lu Wancher was Iron Bone's chief golden chef, thousands of disciples were all raised by her. If he had to cook slowly, not to mention his senior brothers and sisters, even Sect Master Jun would have to starve. On the other hand, although the direct descendants of the Ouyang family have good culinary skills, the amount of food they can cook in a year may not be comparable to the amount of food our little lowly can cook in a day. Diligence makes up for stupidity, and practice makes perfect. Not only could this be used in martial arts, but it could also be used in culinary arts. Putting aside the Ouyang family's ancestral cooking skills, just in terms of cooking, Lu Wancher could crush the Ouyang family's direct descendants. So what right do they have to despise our kind and lovely Iron Bone gold medal chef? The system said, "Author, please control your emotions. It's commentary time now, don't take sides with the contestants based on your personal feelings." Dong! 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 Lu Wancher skillfully waved the kitchen knife, slicing the ingredients evenly. At the same time, the oil in the wok was also heated up. With a wave of the knife, she rolled up the ingredients and threw them in. The whole process could be said to be done in one go. However, it was still too slow. It couldn't be compared to the other contestants' fancy moves. Schwa! Schwa! Lu Wancher held the spoon and began to stir the ingredients. During this time, she added seasonings, striving for perfection in every step. "This little girl is very serious," Jun Changshao muttered. She wasn't the only one who was serious. The other contestants were also giving it their all. After all, they had worked hard for so many years just to prove themselves today. 300 people cooked together, and the fragrance of the dishes that gathered in the air was quite complex, leaving a rich aftertaste. Some people even closed their eyes, and their souls seemed to have merged into an ocean full of delicacies, swimming to their heart's content. Comfortable. Wonderful. Just as they were swimming, waves suddenly rolled up in the ocean, and 10 huge whales floated to the surface of the water, spurting out spring water, interweaving into a magnificent scene. At that moment, everyone locked their eyes on the whales, marveling at their physiques and the colorful spring water they spurted out. At that moment, the sailors' laughter could be heard in the deepest part of their hearts. He said, "What is this pain in the wind and rain? Wipe away your tears and don't be afraid. At least we still have dreams." The martial artists who were in a trance were stunned. They looked toward the source of the voice and saw a lone boat slowly sailing over, carrying a man and a woman who were singing loudly. Jun Changshao. Everyone was stunned. Looking at the girl, wasn't she the Iron Bone disciple who was participating in the culinary competition? However, Lu Wancher was no longer a human, but a mermaid. She sat at the bow of the boat, and her lower body's fishtail gently stirred the water surface. In an instant, everyone's eyes were locked on her, and no one would care about the 10 whales that were spurting out spring water. Schwa many martial artists recovered from their ocean fantasy and looked at Lu Wancher, who was cooking. Smelling the rich fragrance of the dishes, they exclaimed, "So fragrant." When their souls entered the ocean world, it was an illusion where countless fragrances gathered. The 10 whales were the fragrance of the dishes cooked by the 10 Ouyang clan's direct descendants, and they were the most dazzling. Unfortunately, when the fragrance of Lu Wancher's dishes wafted over and barged into everyone's illusion, she turned into a mermaid and took away the glory that belonged to the Ouyang clan's direct descendants. Then there was a problem. Why would Sect Master Jun appear in their illusion and sing so ostentatiously? Even if he wanted to forcefully add a scene, he shouldn't do it like this. The fragrance of Lu Wancher's dishes wafted out, invading everyone's hearts. After the 10 judges smelled it, they started discussing with each other, and their eyes were filled with praise. Just by the fragrance wafting out, Lu Wancher had already suppressed everyone and became the most dazzling existence. Ouyang Jun was so excited that his hands were trembling. After eating the Kung Pao chicken, he had a better understanding of his daughter's culinary skills. However, after seeing her cook with his own eyes, he realized that what he understood was just the tip of the iceberg. The fragrance of the dishes cooked by the 10 Ouyang clan's direct descendants was suppressed by her alone. This girl is not simple. Just by smelling it, I am already drooling. If I eat it, I will definitely have a rich aftertaste. The spectating martial artists were all tempted by the fragrance of Lu Wancher's dishes, and all of them were about to drool. Damn it! The 10 Ouyang clan's direct descendants were unwilling, but they could not do anything because the dishes were about to come out of the wok, and they could not make any adjustments to suppress Lu Wancher. The other contestants were full of admiration for this 11 or 12-year-old girl. To be able to suppress the 10 Ouyang clan's direct descendants in the first round of the competition, she was definitely very powerful. Chapter 524. Soon. The contestants finished their dishes one after another and put them on the plates. The Shin family sent someone over to seal the dishes with special equipment and then arrange them on the stage. According to the rules of the past culinary competitions, after the contestants finished their work, the 10 judges would taste it one by one and give the scores. Swish! Swish! The dishes made by the 10 direct descendants of the Ouyang family were also done. However, they were unhappy that Lu Wancher had taken the limelight. In the past culinary competitions, especially in the first round, the Ouyang family was always the center of attention. But now, everyone was staring at Lu Wancher. No one looked at the direct descendants of the Ouyang family. They were used to being noticed. Suddenly being ignored would definitely be a big blow. However, the blow had just begun. When Lu Wancher was the last to finish cooking, the 10 judges came to the display table and stood in front of Lu Wancher's dish. The direct descendants of the Ouyang family turned green. The elder of the Shin family was a little confused. In the past culinary competitions, they would taste the first dish. Why were they tasting the last dish today? The aroma left behind when Lu Wancher was cooking was too tempting. The 10 judges couldn't wait to taste it. What was so special about the dish? They gently picked up the chopsticks and picked up the tender dish. They were very careful during the whole process. They were afraid that they would make a mistake and waste such good food. The more cautious the judges were, the more anxious the martial artists were. They were eager to see what kind of expression they would have after eating. Whether a dish was delicious or not, facial expressions were the most important. Slowly, the 10 judges put the food in their mouths. They only sniffed the rising white smoke and they were already infatuated. Steady. They had to be steady. They were big shots. They had to resist the temptation of delicious food. The 10 judges opened their mouths and ate. The taste buds on their tongues opened and they tasted it carefully. Swish, in an instant, they stood on the spot as if they were struck by lightning. What happened? This reaction is too exaggerated. Everyone said with their eyes wide open. After a while, the 10 judges who seemed to have been struck by lightning relaxed their facial muscles. Their souls seemed to have gone through 1,000 twists and turns under the stirring of the delicious food. At this moment, thousands of words couldn't describe their feelings. They could only exclaim in unison, "This dish is too delicious." The martial artists' mouths twitched. The more exaggerated the judges were, the more their hearts itched. They couldn't wait to grab the chopsticks and taste it too. Swish! Someone took another bite. Their souls were hit again, as if they were about to float out of the falling star continent and into the distant nebula M78. An old man in his 60s or 70s was in tears as he ate. At that moment, it was as if he had returned to the time when he was young and tasted his mother's cooking. The old man wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and asked with trembling hands, "What's the name of this dish?" This was indeed a home-cooked meal. She had also tried it for everyone in the Iron Bone sect. Everyone. Elder Shin said, "Don't be emotional, hurry up and score." 10 points. 10 points. In the end, the 10 judges all gave a perfect score. Elder Shin said loudly, "Lu Wancher's home-cooked dish has a total of 100 points." The spectator stands were in an uproar. 100 points. That was a full mark. It wasn't that there hadn't been a full mark in the previous culinary competitions, but it was only in the final stage. A full mark in the first round was definitely the best in history. Sigh. Sect leader Jun shrugged and said, "It's not challenging at all." Although Yang Jun was also very happy, he calmed down and said, "Sect leader Jun, this first round is just a test. Many contestants haven't shown their trump cards yet." Trump cards? Jun Changshao smiled and said, "Dudu also has one." The Chinese cookbook gathered the essence of Chinese cuisine. There were countless dishes in it. Any one of them, stewed cabbage, was a trump card. One day, I will let Chinese cuisine blossom in this foreign world, literary and artistic. Lu Wancher's home-cooked dish gave a full mark evaluation, leaving the contestants stunned. But, the direct descendants of the Ouyang family all had ugly expressions. Their Ouyang family had participated in this kind of full mark evaluation every time, and they had only received it once. An illegitimate daughter could do it. This was undoubtedly a fierce slap to their face. Everyone. Elder Shin said, "Please continue to evaluate the other contestants' works." Sigh. The old man who was moved to tears shook his head and said, "After eating this girl's dish, eating other dishes will definitely be tasteless." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. Fortunately, this wasn't a one-round competition. Otherwise, the Iron Bone disciple would have won the championship. Since there were rules in the culinary competition, the 10 judges could only continue to taste. Because of the pearls in front, after tasting each contestant's dish, the scores given were generally not high. The range was between 40 and 60 points. In the end, after a series of statistics and calculations, the 100 contestants who scored more than 50 points successfully advanced to the second round. Oh my god! Someone said, "In the past, if you want to advance to the second round, you have to get at least 70 points. Now, 50 points is enough to advance." Are the contestants this time so weak? It's not that they're weak. It's that the Iron Bone disciples' dish is too delicious. Look at the 10 judges, they're all shaking their heads and frowning after eating other people's dishes. Does this mean that their mouths are spoiled by home-cooked dishes, causing the other contestants to have low scores? Definitely. The eliminated contestants walked down the stage with bitter faces. The 200 stoves were removed in the shortest time, and the second round continued. The 10 direct descendants of the Ouyang family who successfully advanced came to the front of the stoves again. However, intentionally or unintentionally, they glanced at Lu Wancher, and their eyes were filled with seriousness. The first round was just a test. The real competition had just begun. The other contestants who advanced were also adjusting their states and preparing for the next round. The second round was more brutal. Because only 10 people could advance to compete for the final championship. Second round. After the contestants were in position, Elder Shin said loudly, "Choose one of the 10 ingredients in the basket and cook your signature dish." The time limit is still 1 hour. Everyone could do whatever they wanted in the first round, but there were restrictions in the second round. In the basket, there were 10 ingredients that ordinary people could eat, such as cows, sheep, pigs, fish, and so on. Lu Wancher held her chin and thought for a while. Then, she placed the lively carp on the chopping board from the water basin. Sweet and sour carp. June Changxiao's lips curled into a smile. The promotion of Chinese culture started today. Chapter 525. The second round began. Many contestants chose one out of the 10 ingredients and started cooking. As expected, Lu Wancher, who got full marks in the first round, became the focus of everyone's attention. She chose a carp. Everyone was looking forward to it. Lu Wancher used the back of the knife to hit the fish's head, causing it to faint and stop jumping. Luckily, there were no fish lovers, or else there would be strong condemnation. Schwa! Schwa! Lu Wancher skillfully removed the scales, internal organs, and cheeks. Then, she turned the carp into a knife every 2.5 centimeters and sprinkled all kinds of seasonings into it. Whoosh whoosh. She started a fire and added oil. After the oil heated up, she added all kinds of ingredients and put the marinated carp into the pot. The martial artists who had a good understanding of cooking were confused because this was the first time they saw such a way of cooking fish. Whoosh whoosh. The other contestants also controlled the flames and started cooking. Most of them chose meat ingredients and no one used fish. In terms of taste buds, the taste of beef, sheep, chicken, and duck was obviously more outstanding than fish. The direct descendants of the Ouyang clan also chose their signature dishes and started cooking seriously. As the contestants started cooking, the fragrance that had just dissipated gathered again and was even stronger than before. The spectators were drooling. However, Lu Wancher was more low-key this time and did not smell anything from the beginning to the end. Time passed slowly. The martial artists continued to cook their signature dishes and placed them on the table. The direct descendants of the Ouyang clan also finished their dishes. They stood with their hands behind their back and looked proud. These were their trump cards. Once they were shown, they would definitely get a good ranking. Lu Wancher's sweet and sour carp was also finished. It was placed on the plate in a U shape and looked like it was frozen. What dish is this? There's not even soup. Everyone started to discuss. Because the first round got full marks, the 10 judges still didn't care about the order of arrival. They all stood in front of the display table where the sweet crisp carp was placed. The old man who was moved to tears was the first to pick up his chopsticks and pick up the shiny golden fish. He used a bit of force and picked up a piece of meat and golden sugar. The others also started to move. Then, they slowly put it in their mouths and chewed slowly. I really did not want to describe the changes on their faces because I was already at a loss for words. You guys can imagine it yourselves. Crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, sweet and sour. After the old man thought about it, he raised his thumb and said, "Wonderful, wonderful." The other judges nodded in agreement. Someone even exclaimed, "This is the first time I've heard that fish can be cooked this way and that it tastes so delicious." The incomparably arrogant direct descendants of the Ouyang clan felt their hearts turn cold when they saw them praising him one after another. Could it be 10 points? 10 points. The Ouyang family's direct descendants' guess was very accurate. The 10 judges all gave 10 points. Lu Wancher's sweet and sour carp got full marks again. Oh my god. Full marks again. No one has ever gotten full marks in the first and second rounds of the culinary competition. Everyone was stunned. Ouyang Jun, who was very worried about his daughter, almost jumped up in excitement. On the other hand, Sect leader Jun's face was calm. In his opinion, getting full marks for Chinese delicacies was just a normal thing to do. As usual, the judges tasted the specialties of the other contestants one by one and gave a score between 40 and 60 points. Among the Ouyang family's direct descendants who had vowed to get a good ranking, only one person had broken through 61 points. There was no other way. Lu Wancher's 2 dishes tasted too good. After tasting her dishes, it was inevitable that they would feel a little dull to judge the others. In the end, according to the score, Lu Wancher once again got full marks and entered the final round. The other 9 contestants were all from the Ouyang family's direct descendants. The Iron Bone disciple is going to fight against 9 people from the Ouyang family alone. If she didn't participate, this culinary competition would definitely be a civil war between the Ouyang family's direct descendants. Everyone was in a heated discussion. At the same time, they were also looking forward to what the Iron Bone disciple's next dish would make and what kind of expression the judges would have. The eliminated contestants shook their heads and left. They couldn't break the Ouyang family's monopoly, but they admired Lu Wancher, who got full marks twice. Girl. Do your best. In the 3rd round, there were only 10 contestants left. This was the final round. Only one contestant could win the culinary competition. Phew. Lu Wancher let out a long sigh of relief. Getting the top 10 in the culinary competition was equivalent to holding the ticket to the God of Cookery competition. Then, next, I will fight for the championship. Thud. Lu Wancher stood in front of the stove and closed her eyes. At that moment, she seemed to feel that her senior brothers were floating down from the sky and standing beside her, cheering for her with smiles on their faces. Swish. Lu Wancher opened her eyes and said firmly, I will also fight for the Iron Bone clan. Achoo! Iron Bone. Li Qingyang sneezed and said, why do I feel like someone is cursing me behind my back? Senior brother, I have the same feeling, Xiao Ziji said. Su Xiaoma, who was sitting on the railing in front of the main hall, looked in the direction of King's City and said, today is the day of the culinary competition. Du will definitely shine. Junior sister Lu's culinary skills are so strong. She will definitely win the championship without any suspense, Li Fei said firmly. Sigh. Su Xiaoma sighed and said, it's a pity that I can't personally witness Du winning the championship. The 3rd round of the culinary competition was very harsh, because the Shen family only provided one kind of meat for the contestants to cook. Iron nail beef. Seeing the meat, the Ouyang family frowned. Jun Changshao said in surprise, could it be the meat of a higher-grade iron nail bull beast? That's right, Ouyang Jun said. Tsk tisk. Jun Changshao said, this is a fierce beast with a very strong defense. Its meat is also very hard. It is a bit difficult to cook it. Ouyang Jun said solemnly, although the meat quality of the iron nail beef is not bad, it is extremely particular in terms of heat control and ingredients. If there is a slight mistake, it will be difficult to make a delicacy. This guy was quite professional. When the iron nail beef was served, the direct descendants of the Ouyang family all frowned. I didn't expect that in the final round, the Shen family would actually use the most difficult to cook iron nail beef as the main ingredient. A culinary expert said solemnly. To make a delicacy from the iron nail beef, not only did it test one's skills, it also relied on luck. Final round. The Shen family elder dragged out his voice and announced, start now. If it was the first 2 rounds, the contestants would start preparing as soon as the announcement ended. However, the 9 direct descendants of the Ouyang family fell into deep thought. The iron nail beef was quite tricky. They had to think clearly about how to cook it. They could not be reckless. Schwa. Lu Wancher, who was behind, waved her hands and held 2 kitchen knives. She started to cut the iron nail beef horizontally and vertically. Everyone was stunned, it's starting already. Chapter 526. Because of the uniqueness of the iron nail beef, the 9 Ouyang clan's direct descendants didn't start immediately after the competition started. Instead, they considered how to cook it. While they were thinking hard, Lu Wancher picked up 2 kitchen knives and began to skillfully dissect the iron nail beef into several pieces. She chose 70% lean meat and 30% fat meat. After a round of fine and rough cutting, the minced meat was the size of a rice grain. "Are you going to make beef dumplings?" Jun Changshao held his chin and said. No. The dumpling filling should be more minced." "Could it be?" Jun Changshao suddenly thought of a dish and secretly said, "Dudu wants to make braised lion's head in brown sauce." "Not bad." Lu Wancher wanted to make braised lion's head in brown sauce. This was a famous Huaiyang dish, also known as 4 happiness meatballs. Schwa. After chopping the iron nail beef, Lu Wancher followed the steps of the recipe and added various ingredients to the fat and lean meat. Then, she made them into meatballs. Whoosh whoosh, the firewood was raised and a large amount of oil was poured into the pot. After the oil heated up, she began to fry the meatballs in the pot. "What dish is this?" "Meat buns." Looking at the meatball-shaped beef, the spectating martial artists were at a loss. The 9 Ouyang clan's direct descendants also began to cook after thinking hard. To be honest, they had no idea at all. The main reason was that the meat quality of the iron nail beef was too special. If there was a slight mistake, they would definitely not be able to make a delicious dish. Back to Lu Wancher. When the beef meatballs were fried in the oil until they were golden brown, she fished them out. She poured away most of the oil and left a small portion. She added in the vegetables and carrots and stir-fried them slightly. Then, she poured in the fried meatballs and added soy sauce, water, and cooking wine. After simmering for 20 minutes, the beef meatballs were cooked. She opened the pot lid and continued to add ingredients. At this time, a fragrance wafted out from the pot. Many martial artists subconsciously sniffed and their entire body suddenly became intoxicated. So fragrant. Jun Changshao was surprised. He had eaten braised lion's head in brown sauce before. He didn't think it tasted so good. Could it be because of the iron nail beef that it emitted such a fragrant smell? Schwa. Lu Wancher poured the 4 beef meatballs into the plate and poured oil on top. A famous Huaiyang dish, 4 happiness meatballs, was ready to be served. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the plate of meat and juices, and they subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The eyes of the 10 judges also lit up. If it weren't for the fact that the other 9 contestants hadn't finished yet, they couldn't wait to go and have a taste. Lu Wancher, who was originally a little reserved, went through the first 2 warm-ups. Thus, a 4 happiness meatball was soon out of the oven. The face of the Ouyang family's direct descendant was extremely ugly. This was because when the fragrance wafted out, their mental states were disturbed. Especially when he saw the impatient look of the 10 judges, he secretly guessed that if he ate a bite, he might even have to give full marks. When martial artists fought, the greatest taboo was to be distracted. Similarly, a chef who was cooking could not be distracted. However, with Lu Wancher's delicacies in front of them, it was very difficult for them to control their mentality. An hour later, the 9 members of the Ouyang family's direct line of descent finished their dishes one after another in a state of distraction. However, all of them hung their heads dejectedly. How the dishes were made, they already had an answer in their hearts. The 10 dishes were placed on the display table. The Qin family's elder had yet to speak, and the judges all gathered in front of the red braised lion head. Some picked up chopsticks, and some picked up spoons. The elder took a bite first, and his body suddenly stiffened. Every piece of beef was wrapped in juices. Not only was it fresh and fragrant, it was also very chewy. The meat of the iron nail beef was tough. If the heat was not controlled well, it would be very hard to cook, and the shredded meat would even get stuck in the teeth. When Lu Wancher made the 4 happiness meatball, she also fully considered the characteristics of the meat. She chopped it up, fried it first, and then boiled it, allowing the juices to seep into every piece of beef, thus maintaining the elasticity of the ingredients and making it fresh and delicious. After tasting it carefully, the elder evaluated, shocking. Delicacies of the world. Chilean liver and phoenix marrow. Jade plate delicacies. Universally praised. The 10 judges gave their evaluations one after another, and all kinds of idioms that praised the delicacies came out of their mouths. The spectating martial artists' eyes were filled with intense envy and jealousy. From the fragrance of the third menu, they could tell that it was definitely a top delicacy. If they could have a bite, they would definitely be extremely happy. Everyone. The Shin family's elders said, let's grade, 10 points. 10 points. The Ouyang family's direct descendant really knew the future. Lu Wancher's third dish was still a perfect score. This undoubtedly created a new record in the culinary competition. 3 rounds of competition, 3 perfect scores. Of course, the competition was not over yet, because the 9 dishes made by the Ouyang family's direct descendant had not been graded. In fact, the martial artists knew that there was no need to grade. Since it was a competition, it had to be fair. After the 10 judges rinsed their mouths, they began to try the other 9 dishes. In the end, the 9 dishes made by the Ouyang family's direct descendant all got 0 points. When the last person's grade came out, everyone was completely dumbfounded. The Ouyang family that had focused on cooking for hundreds of years actually got 0 points in the culinary competition, and all 9 of them together. This was too unbelievable. There was nothing unbelievable about it. The Ouyang family's direct descendant's state of mind was disturbed, and he could not cook in peace. There were also frequent mistakes in the heat control and ingredients. Although he managed to complete it in the end, it did not reach the standard at all. If it was other food, even if there were mistakes, the taste would not be too bad. But the key was that this was the iron nail beef. Any slight flaw would affect the taste, so the 10 judges could only give 0 points. The third round ended. Lu Wancher won again with a perfect score, and she became the champion. When she went up to the stage to receive the award, she said excitedly, "Here, I want to thank my Sect master, my senior brothers and sisters. Without them, I, Lu Wancher, would not be here today." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "This girl, she really used the acceptance speech I gave her." Yang Jun, who was standing at the side, was filled with bitterness. If he had taken care of his daughter from the start and carefully nurtured her, perhaps she should be thanking him the most. Of course. Lu Wancher held the trophy and said, "I also want to thank my father. He was the one who allowed me to be born in this world. He made me understand that by pairing food and ingredients together, we can make delicious dishes that will leave a lasting aftertaste." Yang Jun was stunned. Gradually, his eyes became moist. "My daughter, as long as you can forgive your father's past mistakes, I should be the one thanking you. Lastly, I also want to thank the Ouyang family. Without them making things difficult and humiliating, I would not have left the Ouyang family. I would not have wandered outside, and I would not have." Speaking of this, Lu Wancher could not help but cry. However, she still had a smile on her face. After slightly adjusting her emotions, she said proudly, "I am fortunate to become a disciple of the Iron Bone clan. This girl." Jun Changshao shook his head and said in his heart, "I am also proud of you." On this day, the culinary competition ended. Lu Wancher got 3 perfect scores and became an unsurpassable existence in the culinary competition. The 9 direct descendants of the Ouyang family all got 0 points and would forever be nailed on the pillar of shame. On this day, after Lu Wancher received the award, she gave a speech that deeply touched the students of the Gathering Heroes Hall. Iron Bone Clan. What kind of sect was it? It could make a girl with extraordinary culinary skills feel a strong sense of pride when she shouted out the name of the sect. "I've decided." Huoling said in her heart, "I want to join the Iron Bone clan." Chapter 527. Lu Wancher was the champion of the culinary competition. By right, the competition should have ended by now, but the martial artists watching the competition did not leave. Because there was still one more segment, the final stage. The contestants' dishes would be auctioned publicly, and the highest bidder would get to taste it. That's right. Just one bite. The 10 judges had given such a high evaluation to the braised lion's head. Many martial artists must be itching to try it. The Ouyang family's 9 dishes had all scored 0 points. Even if they had to pay, they would not try it. Sect leader Jun, who had planned to leave with Lu Wancher, heard Ouyang Jun say that there was still such a segment, so he stood there and waited with interest. Not long later, the Shin family's elder walked up the stage again and said loudly, "I believe everyone can't wait. Now, the herb-picking segment of the final stage will be officially auctioned. The starting price is 10,000 taels. 10,000 taels. Jun Changshao said in surprise, who would have the money to burn and spend 1 spirit stone to eat a dish? Poverty limited sect leader Jun's imagination. When the auction started, many martial artists from the big families rushed to bid. In a short time, the price rose from 10,000 to 100,000 taels. Sect leader Jun's mouth twitched. 100,000 taels to eat a dish. The rich people in Monarch City were really showy. Under normal circumstances, no one would be willing to spend 100,000 taels to eat a dish. However, Lu Wancher was a contestant who got full marks in all 3 rounds. The 10 judges were all experts in food. With such a high evaluation, the food was definitely delicious. It was definitely worth it to spend a lot of money to eat it. The first martial artist got the right to taste the braised lion's head with 100,000 taels. He took a small spoon and took a bite. He stood there, and his soul seemed to have flown out of the 9 heavens. Oh my God! After a while, that martial artist shouted, "It's really too delicious. Isn't this too exaggerated? No, no. I must win the next auction and see what's so special about the champion dish." As a result, the wealthy armament cultivators continued to outbid each other. In the end, the braised lion's head was tasted by more than 10 people, and they got 2 million taels in total. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Dudu's dishes were so popular that they could open a restaurant. He was more than welcome. None of the martial cultivators who had eaten it were not shocked by the heavens. None of them were not left with a rich aftertaste. Furthermore, they believed that if they were able to spend money to eat a mouthful of it, it was really super worth it. The organizers saw that Lu Wancher's dishes were so valuable, so they took out the previous home-cooked dishes and sweet and sour carp to auction again. The first 2 dishes were already cold, so the texture and taste were definitely not as good as before. But many cultivators were still bidding tirelessly, all for the sake of tasting the food cooked by the champion. Sect Master Jun, the Shin family elder, handed over the spatial ring and said, "According to the rules of the cooking competition, the dishes cooked by the champion will be auctioned off, and the profit will be split 50-50 with the organizer. This is the 3 million taels that your disciple deserves." That was to say, Lu Wancher's 3 dishes were sold for a total of 6 million taels. Even the home-cooked dishes that she often cooked in the sect were sold for 1 million taels. The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and he said, "Dudu cooks in the sect every day. According to this price, wouldn't I and my disciples eat billions of yuan? No, no. Opening a restaurant had to be considered as a serious matter." Lu Wancher won the cooking competition and got full marks in all 3 rounds. The 3 dishes were sold for a sky-high price, and the news spread in the imperial city in a short time. Without a doubt, this 11 or 12-year-old girl would definitely leave a heavy mark in the history of southwest Yangzhou. The Ouyang family that had been cooking for generations had unfortunately become a foil. The 9 direct descendants got 0 points and would become the laughingstock of others. First, they were smashed and then defeated in the field that they were good at. The Ouyang clan had completely taken a tumble. The next day, the cultivators in the city were still discussing the cooking competition. Sect Master Jun left the imperial city with Lu Wanshi and Ouyang Jun at dawn. They had spent half a month participating in the competition, so it was time to return to the sect. Sect Master. Lu Wanshi didn't understand. Didn't you say that you were going to recruit disciples in the academy? You didn't even get one and you are leaving? Jun Changshao said, don't force things. Everything depends on fate. Oh. Lu Wanshi understood. The three of them walked along the street and out of the city gate. On the way, many cultivators looked at them with respect. This sect master that came from a small 9th-grade county had done things that they admired in just a few days in the imperial city. Teacher Jun. Just at this moment, a shout came from behind as Hualing quickly caught up. Jun Changshao stopped and said, you don't have lessons today. Huff huff. Hualing stopped and put his hands on his knees. He bent over and gasped for breath. Teacher. Teacher Jun, I want to join the Iron Bone clan. The surrounding martial cultivators' eyes were filled with astonishment. This was the direct descendant of the Hua family, one of the 8 great families in the imperial city. In terms of strength, he wasn't weaker than a 4th-rate sect. They didn't expect him to take the initiative to join a sect. Why do you want to join? Jun Changshao asked. Hualing gradually calmed his breathing and said loudly, following Teacher Jun, I can learn real skills. And? Following Teacher Jun, I can become a strong person. And? Following Teacher Jun, I can eat good food. Pfft, Lu Wanshi covered her mouth and laughed. Jun Changshao said seriously, it's not impossible to join Iron Bone, but no matter how noble your identity is, as long as you join the sect, you will be a normal disciple. Understood? Hualing shouted. He had the idea of joining Iron Bone yesterday and even went back to his family to discuss it with his father. He insisted on his opinion and wanted to join no matter what, even if he was a disciple who did odd jobs. You are now a student of the academy. Teacher Jun, I have already applied to graduate early from the dean. There was such a thing. Jun Changshao said, since that's the case, follow me back to Iron Bone. Yes. Hualing hurriedly cupped his hands at Lu Wanshi and said, little senior sister, please accept junior brother's bow. This brat really knew how to flatter. Teacher Jun. Another shout came from the city gate. The students of Gathering Heroes Hall all ran over and shouted, we also want to join Iron Bone. Chu Xiaonan was among them. At first, he refused, but yesterday, he was called home by his father and threatened with a whip, saying, my son, you must join Iron Bone. The talented direct descendants of the big families in the royal city all shouted that they wanted to join Iron Bone, making the passers-by dumbfounded. Why should we join? If we follow Teacher Jun, we can become outstanding. The students of Gathering Heroes Hall shouted in unison. Since that's the case. Jun Changshao said, hurry up and line up. Schwa. Schwa. 39 students of Gathering Heroes Hall lined up. Jun Changshao looked at the royal city and smiled, saying, Dean Situ, I will take your students away. Situ Haoyun, who was in the academy, shook his head helplessly. He let him be an honorary teacher to teach the students, but after teaching for a few days, he abducted all the students. Patriarchs of the big families. Jun Changshao said again, I will take your direct descendants back to the sect for training. If they can't become outstanding in the future, they can come to the sect to settle accounts with Jun at any time. Sect leader Jun, a deep voice came from the city, my son is arrogant, and I will have to trouble you in the future. It's Patriarch Chu. Everyone exclaimed in unison. Farewell. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and returned to Iron Bone with the direct descendants of the big families in the Heavenly Mandate Royal City. Although the patriarchs of the big families didn't come to see them off, they also released their spiritual senses and watched their direct descendants gradually disappear. They said to themselves, "I hope this decision is right." Chapter 528. Out of the 40 students from Juying Tang, 39 of them left with Jun Changshao. The only one who didn't go was Princess Red Lotus. She stood on top of the academy building and watched the students leave. Her gaze was complicated. "Red Lotus," Situ Haoyun said, "haven't you thought it through?" "No," Princess Red Lotus said. Situ Haoyun shook his head and said, "In my opinion, you want to stay and take care of the city for your father." Princess Red Lotus was silent. City Lord Mu had no children. She was his only daughter. Now that he was old, his ambition had faded. He only wanted to pursue martial arts. Therefore, he left all the matters in the city to Mu Honglian. Managing the royal city is not an easy task. Situ Haoyun said, "City Lord Mu shouldn't have entrusted you with such a bold task." Princess Red Lotus smiled and said, "Sect leader Jun is so young, but he can run a sect so well. How difficult would it be for me to manage a city? How could a sect be compared to a royal city?" Situ Haoyun shook his head and said, "Actually, you can go to Iron Bone to cultivate first. After you finish your studies, you can come back and take over the royal city." Princess Red Lotus said, "I still need my father to decide." She also wanted to join Iron Bone and learn advanced martial arts. However, without her father's permission, she couldn't leave the royal city without permission. Situ Haoyun muttered in his heart, "If your father knew about sect leader Jun, he would probably take you there himself." What did he mean? He was a dual king of swordsmanship and a martial arts master. He was a son-in-law who couldn't be found anywhere. He could also make up for his drunken act. The students of Juying Tang were taken away by Jun Changshao. The hearts of many students in the Heavenly Mandate Academy followed. "Instructor." A student mustered up his courage and said, "Can I apply to graduate in advance?" "Why?" "I also want to join the Iron Bone clan." "Dean." In the meeting hall, the vice dean said with a straight face, "Many students are applying to graduate in advance to join the Iron Bone clan." "Then let them be," Situ Haoyun said. The vice president broke down and said, "There are at least 3,000 people who applied." Situ Haoyun said seriously, "Students have their own choices. As teachers, we should support them." The vice president said, "All right." As a result, all the students who applied for early graduation were approved. All of a sudden, many young elites packed up their luggage and headed for the Azure Sun County. When the various sects' offices outside the academy received the news, they immediately collapsed. Many of the students were selected by them in advance, and they had used countless methods to recruit them. Now that they were all going to join Iron Bone, wasn't this like drawing water with a sieve? AI. One of the sect elders sighed and said, "With so many outstanding talents entering Iron Bone, once they rise, they will be unstoppable." How could he say that? Just like how Iron Bone became stronger in the future because of the support of the students in the academy. Why are there so many students carrying their luggage out of the city? I just received news that they all applied to graduate early to join Iron Bone. You can even apply to graduate in advance? The warriors in the city were dumbfounded. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was the holy temple of martial arts in southwest Yangzhou. Countless young geniuses hoped to enter the academy to cultivate. They even hoped to stay and continue their studies after graduation. Applying to graduate early? What kind of operation was this? Of course. There were also warriors who could guess that so many students chose to graduate early to join Iron Bone. This meant that this sect could make them stronger. The thought-provoking thing was, the students of Juying Tang also joined Iron Bone. These people were all from big families, and their strength was not weaker than 4th or 5th rate sections. Why would they be willing to let their direct descendants join a 6th or 7th-rate sect? There was no denying it. The head of Iron Bone was very powerful. But the sect was just at the beginning stage. Sending their direct descendants to cultivate there was obviously a gamble. Just as the warriors in the city were fighting over each other, another piece of important news came out. The Southwest Yangzhou Certification Headquarters had released the latest sect potential ranking, and the sect ranked first was shockingly Iron Bone Clan. What made everyone's eyes widen was that not only did this sect directly become the top sect, but their potential evaluation was also top 3. Top 3. Oh my god, Iron Bone is top 3. The royal city was completely in an uproar. Since the establishment of the certification headquarters, the highest potential evaluation of a sect in southwest Yangzhou was only top 1. When many warriors were eating and chatting, they often joked, "I don't know if I can see a top 2 sect in my lifetime." What used to be a joke was now a reality. No. It was even higher. Because it was not top 2, but top 3. A sect with such potential was rare even in the entire Starfall continent. The ranking of potential sects released by the certification headquarters was not only spread in the royal city, but also in every city in southwest Yangzhou at the fastest speed. Iron Bone is top 3. How is this possible? Even the Xian Sacred Sect, which is now famous throughout the world, was only rated as second in potential. After all the martial cultivators in the city saw the list, there wasn't a single one of them who didn't have monstrous waves in their hearts. Ha! In the hall of the Chu family, the Chu family leader laughed heartily. When he let his son join Iron Bone, the entire family was against it, but he endured the enormous pressure and persevered. Now that Iron Bone's potential was top 3, it meant that his decision was very correct. As for the group of elders who opposed, they were all silent. The Hua family leader and the other family leaders were also in a good mood, because their direct descendants had become disciples of this top 3 sect. Families that could establish themselves in the royal city and not decline for many years were not fools. The Iron Bone sect had risen in such a short period of time. If Jun Changshao didn't have any real talent, it would have been impossible for him to do so. Therefore, he had let his direct disciples join the Iron Bone sect with the mentality of a gambler. They gambled correctly. Top 3 Iron Bone's future was limitless. Head Branch Leader. In the Devil Fiend sect branch, a subordinate hurriedly reported, "I just received news that the latest ranking of potential sects is out." The head branch leader said impatiently, "Is such a small matter worth reporting?" The subordinate said, reporting to head branch leader, "The sect at the top of this ranking is Iron Bone Upright Sect." The head branch leader said in surprise, "Is it top 3 or top 2? In his opinion, a sect that could occupy the top of the ranking of potential sects in southwest Yangzhou had to be at least this level. The subordinate hurriedly said, reporting to head branch leader, "The certification hall gave it top 3. Top 3. The head branch leader said, as expected, "Wait." His expression froze, saying, "Are you talking about top 3 or top 3? Top 3. The head branch leader stood up and said in disbelief, "Iron Bone's potential is top 3. Correct." The subordinate said. "Bullshit." The head branch leader said, "How can there be top 3 sects in southwest Yangzhou where birds don't shit?" The subordinate's mouth twitched, saying, "It's written very clearly on the ranking, it's top 3. Sect leader Jun swung his shiny black hair and made a confident and flirtatious pose. "Where is he? Where is he? Here, here. I am Jun Changshao, all living beings, worship me." The martial artist who spoke earlier shouted, "Sect leader Jun is recruiting disciples at Huaman Lu. Everyone, quickly go and take a look. Let's go. Let's go." The passers-by on the street swarmed over, their eyes filled with excitement and worship. Jun Changshao was stunned. He was clearly standing on the street. How could he be in a building? Wait! Sect leader Jun's face immediately darkened. Someone is impersonating my name again. Is he still recruiting disciples? Hua Man Lu. It was a famous place to eat, drink, and play in the city. At this moment, the streets were filled with a sea of people, tens of thousands of heads moving. Regardless of whether it was martial artists or the most ordinary people, they were all looking up at the second floor, their eyes filled with incomparable worship. At the entrance of the restaurant, four black-robed men stood with their hands behind their backs, looking like bodyguards. This humble one is the head of the Ren family. Do I have the qualifications to go upstairs and meet sect leader Jun? A middle-aged man in embroidered clothes asked respectfully. You need to pay 10,000 taels to visit sect leader Jun, a black-robed man said proudly. No problem, no problem. The head of the Ren family hurriedly handed over 10,000 taels of silver. Go in. The black-robed men guarding the door all made way, but they still maintained their arrogance. If you want to see sect leader Jun, you have to pay 10,000 taels of silver. It's already very good to pay a little money to see this kind of sect leader who has the potential to be in the top 3. He is also the double king of sword and martial arts and a teacher of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Even if it was 50,000 taels of silver, there would be people rushing to see him, let alone 10,000 taels of silver. The martial artists on the street were all discussing. At this time, the heads of the family successively paid 10,000 taels of silver to be qualified to enter Hua Man Lu. Martial artists without money could only stand outside and watch, hoping to be lucky enough to see the face of the Iron Bone sect leader from the window on the second floor. Make way! Make way! Jun Changshao squeezed through the crowd. Because there were too many people, he couldn't get to the door for a long time, so he shouted, who dropped their banknotes on the ground? Mine! Mine! The people nearby all lowered their heads to look for the banknotes. Jun Changshao relied on the small gap left and successfully squeezed to the door of Hua Man Lu. Just as he was about to walk in, he was stopped by a black-robed man. Little guy, if you want to go in and meet sect leader Jun, you need to pay 10,000 taels of silver. The corner of sect leader Jun's mouth twitched. Fuck, I want to go in and see myself, but I still have to pay money. What's going on? Take it. Jun Changshao threw the 10,000 taels of silver over and successfully entered Hua Man Lu. He angrily said in his heart, this seat wants to see who has the guts to pretend to be me and recruit disciples in this city. The young man in white raised an eyebrow and showed a hint of dissatisfaction. However, he still said in a gentlemanly manner, everyone, please sit. As everyone sat down, they did not forget to cast a cold glance at Jun Changshao. How could such an unruly person end up in Hua Man Lu? Slap. The sound of melon seeds cracking could be heard again. Family head Ren couldn't bear it anymore. He stood up and scolded, young masterly, in such a solemn occasion, if you want to eat melon seeds, please do it outside. Don't disturb others. What? Jun Changshao raised his orchid fingers and cracked another melon seed, saying, can't I eat it when it's on the table? Everyone's mouth twitched. The melons and fruits on the table were nothing more than decorations. Who would be as shameless as you to eat them? Sect head Jun Changshao said, you be the judge. The young man in white smiled, this friend might be greedy. There's no harm in eating some. Everyone, please don't mind. Sect head Jun's words are reasonable. Family head Ren sat down, but he still glared at Jun Changshao. Everyone. The young man in white said loudly, Jun accidentally passed by Guilin City and saw the purple aura lingering in the sky. He knew that this was a place where talents were born, so he decided to recruit disciples here. Everyone was overjoyed. Guilin City was not big. Although it was under the management of the imperial city, it did not even have a city lord. To be able to receive such praise from sect head June, it was definitely an honor. June Changshao secretly muttered, "This brat really knows how to boast." The system said, "If he doesn't know how to boast, why would he treat everyone like monkeys?" That makes sense. However, since he dared to use this daddy's name to cheat people, he was destined to be a respectable person when he was alive. Sigh. The young man in white said, "It's a pity that my Iron Bones sect can only recruit 10 disciples in Guilin City." Everyone was stunned. They were willing to spend 10,000 taels to go upstairs because they wanted to see sect head June's face, but they also wanted to send their own disciples to Iron Bones sect to cultivate. Now that there were 40 to 50 people here and he only recruited 10 disciples, this was troublesome. Sect head June, family head Ren said, "Can't we recruit more?" The young man in white shook his head. "When my Iron Bones sect recruits disciples, we pay attention to the right time, the right place, and the 5 elements. I did a divination just now. Guilin City is a place with good feng shui, but its aura is directed to the east, which is a taboo. Therefore, we can only recruit 10 disciples. Any more and we will be going against the law." The right place, the 5 elements. Directed to the east, and a taboo? Is this the sect head? This is a swindler in the Jianghu. I see. Everyone was enlightened. Family head Ren cupped his hands. Sect head June is very knowledgeable, this Ren is very impressed. Big brother, you believe this? Was your IQ eaten by a dog? If this happened to me, the readers would definitely scold me for having a protagonist aura. Villains are all brainless. Of course. The young man in white said clearly, "When I recruit disciples, I mainly look at their birth characters. If they are compatible with my Iron Bones sect, I will naturally take them in." Damn. Definitely a swindler. June Changshao wanted to slap him. He endured it. He wanted to quietly watch this brat act pretentiously, quietly watch how this brat swindled people. The system said, "Host, are you sure you don't want to learn? Don't say it." This brat really wanted to learn. After all, he could use it to recruit disciples in the future. A genuine one learning swindling in front of a fake, it was really strange. Sect head June, family head Ren said, "I have brought the birth characters of a few direct descendants of my family. Please take a look and see if they are fated with the Iron Bone sect." June Changshao opened his mouth. Bringing the birth characters of the direct descendants of the family was so particular. Wait a minute. Why was there a silver note under the birth characters? I understand. It wasn't to see if they were fated with the Iron Bone sect, it was to use the silver note to secretly enter through the back door. The young man in white took the birth chart from Patriarch Ren, and the banknotes under it slipped into his sleeve. This method, this speed. June Changxiao's heart was filled with admiration. Family head Ren. The young man in white looked at the birth characters seriously and said, "These 2 direct descendants of your family are compatible with my Iron Bone sect. I can take them in." "Thank you, sect head June." Family head Ren said happily. The others looked at him enviously. The Iron Bone sect's direct descendants who had the potential to enter the top 3 would definitely have limitless achievements in the future. Sect head June, a family head said, "This is my son's birth characters, please take a look." When he handed it over, he stuffed a few silver notes under it. Because his method was clumsy, everyone present saw it clearly. The corner of June Changxiao's mouth twitched violently. When he recruited disciples, most of them looked at him to confirm. This brat used his birth characters to swindle money. Damn, why didn't I think of that? Chapter 531. Today, June Changxiao had broadened his horizons and benefited from it. He didn't know that there were so many ways to make money. Not bad, not bad. The young man in white who accepted the banknotes looked at the 8 characters and said, he is also fated with my iron bone. I can accept him as my disciple. He was fated with money. Sect Master June, a family head, hurriedly cupped his hands and said, I will send someone to get the 8 characters. Can you wait for a moment? The young man in white nodded. Therefore, the dozens of family heads present went downstairs one after another and contacted the servants outside to go home and get the 8 characters as quickly as possible. After a while, the family heads brought the 8 characters of their direct descendants. They imitated family head Ren and stuffed banknotes under the posts. Some put 10,000, some 20,000, and some directly 50,000. Iron Bone was now famous. These family heads naturally hoped that their direct descendants could join the sect and have extraordinary martial arts in the future, so it didn't matter even if they had to spend some money. Jun Changshao secretly shook his head and said, a group of pitiful people. The young man in white took the 8 characters and flipped through them one by one. Your direct descendants are fated with my iron bone. I will reluctantly accept them all. Everyone was overjoyed. Sect Master June, at this moment, Jun Changshao suddenly said, didn't you just say that you can only recruit 10 disciples because you are angry with the East? Why did you recruit so many people at once? The young man in white frowned slightly. Family head Ren said angrily, boy, I think you are here to make trouble. The other family heads were also angry. It was not easy to spend some money to let their direct descendants enter Iron Bone. If they made Sect Master June unhappy and only recruited 10 disciples, it would be terrible. No, no. Jun Changshao said, I heard that Sect Master June is a man of principle. How can you do something that goes back on your words? The system collapsed. How can you praise yourself like that? I have learned something new. Family head Ren was even angrier. Just as he was about to speak, the young man in white stopped him and smiled. Little friend, I am afraid you have misunderstood. Misunderstanding? Jun Changshao asked, what do you mean? Kid. Let's see how you're going to brag. The young man in white said, the direct descendants of these families are compatible with my iron bone's 5 elements, which can resolve the evil spirit taboo. As the saying goes, among the 5 elements, yin, yang, heaven, and earth, he said a lot of things. From theology to philosophy, sect leader June was dumbfounded. What a fucking talent. Young friend. The white-clothed youth said, do you still have any questions? Humph. Family head Ren said coldly, sect leader June has the demeanor of a great family. He won't lower himself to your level. If it were me, I would have thrown him out immediately. Exactly. Someone glared at Jun Changshao and said, brat, don't cause trouble here. Get out of Hua Man building. Sigh. These people were hopeless. Sect leader Jun Changshao said, I heard you are a sword and martial arts double king. I wonder if you can show me some of your skills. Oh, shit. This guy is taking advantage of my face. Family head Ren shouted angrily, brat, who do you think you are? Why should sect leader June show you some of his skills? Everyone looked at him angrily. If sect leader June wasn't here, they would have already thrown this troublemaker out. The white-clothed youth smiled gently and said, once I use my skills, it will consume a lot of spiritual energy. I need a lot of nourishing herbs to recuperate, so it is inconvenient for me to show it to others. Hee hee. Afraid of being exposed, right? Jun Changshao waved his hand and threw 1,000,000 taels of silver on the table. If sect leader June can open my eyes, I will use this 1,000,000 taels to buy some nourishing herbs. Kid. You are pretending to be me to make money. Come, come, come. I will give you 1,000,000 taels. I want to see how you will continue pretending. The white-clothed youth's eyes flashed. It was obvious that he was very tempted by the 1,000,000 taels. Those patriarchs who had wanted to kick Jun Changshao out had looks of shock on their faces. This kid could take out 1,000,000 taels so casually. His identity was probably not simple. Could he be a young master from some great family? Sect leader Jun, the family head, said, "Why don't you open everyone's eyes?" Everyone's eyes flashed with anticipation. The sect leader Jun standing in front of them was the sword and martial king. This had not appeared for thousands of years. If they were lucky enough to see it, they would definitely be able to brag about it for the rest of their lives. Since that is the case, I will fulfill this little friend's wish. The white-clothed youth waved his hand and took the silver. Damn! He really dared to take it. The system said, what he said just now was obviously a demonstration with money. You are licking your face and giving him money. Are you stupid? Are you stupid? Seriously. A little stupid. Fine, fine. I will expose this impostor later. If I don't make him spit out all the money he cheated, I will write the previous sect leader's surname backwards. The white-clothed youth stood up and said, "Everyone, in order to avoid hurting everyone, I can only release a little." Everyone was excited and couldn't help but move back. Whoosh, whoosh! Right at this moment, two vast auras surged out from the white-clothed young man's body. One was thick, and the other was sharp. Everyone was so shocked that their mouths opened. As expected of the sword and martial king, the aura that erupted was so powerful. Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. This impostor was also the sword and martial king? No, no. Jun Changshao had been releasing his spiritual sense. Although the aura in the room was strong, it did not seep outside. The martial artists on the street did not notice it at all. It seems that this kid must have used some method to create an aura similar to the sword and martial king in the room. There was also a little trick. No wonder he dared to cheat so blatantly. A moment later, the aura that filled the room weakened. The white-clothed youth said, "Little friend, are you satisfied?" Fuck. He just released his aura and earned 1,000,000 taels of silver. Money is too easy to earn. You were the one who insisted on taking it out. The system added. Jun Changshao stood up and said, "Sect leader Jun is powerful and admirable. I wonder if you can exchange pointers with me." He could easily take down this swindler, but it would only be interesting if he exposed him in front of everyone. The white-clothed youth had been restraining his emotions. When he heard that the other party wanted to exchange pointers, his face immediately darkened. "Kid!" Patriarch Ren slammed the table and said angrily, "Are you done?" The others could not hold it in anymore. They were afraid that this guy would anger sect leader Jun and leave. "Everyone." Jun Changshao said indifferently, "You are all intelligent people. Don't you think that the person standing in front of you is a swindler? Impudent!" The white-clothed youth shouted in a deep voice. Whoosh whoosh. The aura of the sword and martial king that had just retreated spread out again, several times stronger than before. Everyone was shocked. They knew that sect leader Jun was angry. "Kid!" Patriarch Ren said coldly, "Angering sect leader Jun is courting death. Hurry up and apologize." Jun Changshao ignored him and continued to release his spiritual sense. He found that the aura on this floor was strong, but the people outside still did not react at all. In other words, this kid's trick had a certain limit. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "I won't pretend anymore. I am the Iron Bone sect leader. I will lay my cards on the table." Chapter 532. He's the sect leader of the Iron Bone sect? All the family heads in Hua Man restaurant burst into laughter. I was wondering why this kid's clothes are so similar to sect leader Jun's. It turns out that he's not wearing the same clothes. He's just pretending. Is this guy an idiot? He's pretending to be Sect Leader June in front of Sect Leader June. The corner of Patriarch Ren's mouth twitched as he said, "Everyone, in my opinion, this kid is most likely a lunatic." "I think so. To be able to take out 1,000,000 taels so casually, he must be a lunatic from a big family." "Sect Leader June, please calm down. There's no need to lower yourself to the lunatic's level." June Changshao clenched his fists. "Motherfucker, what a bunch of idiots." "Humph." The young man in white retracted his aura and waved his hand. "Throw this lunatic out. I don't want to see him for even a second." Huff huff. As soon as he finished speaking, a majestic and heavy aura filled the restaurant. Bang! 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 In an instant, the vases that were placed around were shattered on the spot by the surging aura. The air waves blew everyone's hair into a mess. They couldn't even open their eyes. June Changshao, who had unleashed his aura, glanced at everyone coldly and said, "I'd like to see who has the guts to do so." The system said, "Why don't you just capture him directly? Why do you have to act tough? Can't you just spend 1,000,000 taels to act tough?" "Sure, sure." The system said, "You can buy it with money." June Changshao wanted to expose this liar and let these pitiful family heads know who the real Iron Bone sect leader was. So, he directly unleashed the aura of the Sword and Martial Kings. It was free. It didn't cost a single cent. Outside, everyone felt the majestic and cold aura. They all widened their eyes and said excitedly, "Sect Leader June must have unleashed his cultivation." Sect Leader June was naturally referring to the liar. Because they would never have thought that the young man in white was an imposter. They would never have thought that there was really June Changshao inside. Some of the martial artists who were doubtful felt the aura of the Sword and Martial Kings and were secretly shocked. "I didn't expect him to really be the Iron Bones sect leader. From the looks of it, he must have come from the royal city and happened to pass by this place. That was why he decided to recruit disciples at the last minute." However, she had just accepted so many students from the academy, so why would she take a fancy to a youngster from such a small place? It would cost another 10,000 taels to pay a visit. Wasn't this too greedy? Why did sect leader June hate people impersonating him? It was because he was afraid of being slandered. If he had really taken the money, then it wouldn't matter. They could say whatever they wanted. But he didn't do anything. Instead, he got a bad reputation for being greedy. How wronged would that be? And this was just a scam. What if someone were to swindle a bunch of pregnant girls into running to Iron Bone and asking him to be their savior? That would be a real fucking breakdown. Therefore, those who impersonated him must be severely punished no matter what. Inside the flower house, the various family heads gradually adapted to the strong chi waves, and someone said in disdain, "He dares to show off his cultivation in front of Sect Master June, this brat is tired of living." June Changshao almost vomited blood. My Sword and Martial King's aura burst out, but they didn't realize that they had been tricked. These people were truly hopeless. "Brat." June Changxiao's gaze was cold as he said, "Using this king's name to swindle people outside, you really have guts." The white-clothed youth who was being stared at was so scared that his scalp went numb. After all, he was a seasoned swindler. He still said with a calm expression, "Little friend, although your aura is not bad, it is not worth mentioning in front of me." Still pretending. June Changxiao sneered, "Believe it or not, I can crush you to death with one finger." Schwa. At this moment, Patriarch Ren couldn't hold it in anymore. He took a large step forward and shouted angrily, "Shameless boasting fellow, this patriarch will meet you." Scram. June Changshao threw a punch. Bang! Patriarch Ren, who had just rushed over, was instantly sent flying, smashing through the wall and landing on the street. Everyone widened their eyes. Patriarch Ren was a peak martial master, but he was sent flying by a single punch. Jun Changxiao's aura exploded as he walked over step by step and said, "Brat, if I'm not wrong, this patriarch Ren should be in cahoots with you." The white-clothed youth's eyes flashed strangely. Jun Changxiao got the answer he wanted from his eyes and said, "I was wondering just now, who would be so free as to carry the birth date of a direct descendant?" Schwa. He raised his hand and grabbed the other family head who was standing next to him and said, "You should be one of the accomplices." That was the second person to take out the birth date. Finding a few people to act out a double act and make others willingly give up their tickets, this deception is quite clever. Although the captured patriarch was frightened, he said, "Brat, I am from Guilin City's Sun family." Rip Jun Changxiao directly took off his face. The original middle-aged man suddenly turned into a young man. Human skin mask. This guy is not Patriarch's son. Schwa. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and through the young man who had revealed his true appearance, saying, "Only a fool would be fooled by you." The faces of the patriarchs of the various families became very ugly. If they were really fooled, wouldn't he be scolding them? "The Red Flame Army of the Heavenly Mandate Royal City is here. The Red Flame Army of the Heavenly Mandate Royal City is here." At this moment, there was a shout from outside. From the sound of this voice, it seemed that they were deliberately leaking information. Jun Changxiao's spiritual consciousness spread out and saw the people on the street move aside. A large number of soldiers in red armor rushed in and quickly surrounded Hua Manlu. "Why is she here?" "Who?" "Princess Red Lotus." This woman was wearing red armor and looked valiant as she led more than a dozen soldiers into Hua Manlu. "Oh my god. The one who just went in seems to be Princess Red Lotus. Why would she come to our small place?" The warriors outside started to talk. In the end, some people came to the conclusion that she must have known that Jun Changxiao was here, so she came to visit. No wonder he was the head of the Iron Bone sect, even the princess of the royal city came. "Kid." In Hua Manlu, a patriarch sneered and said, "You hit someone in the city. Now that Princess Red Lotus is here, just wait to be punished." Guilin City was managed by the Heavenly Mandate Royal City, so there was a rule that prohibited fighting in the city. "Idiot," Jun Changxiao said lightly. This was definitely not an insult, it was definitely his heartfelt words. The scam was about to be exposed, but they still did not realize that they had been fooled. These people were really stupid. At this moment, the youth in white behind him panicked. He knew better than anyone that he was an imposter and was wanted by the royal city. Once Princess Red Lotus saw him, he would be done for. "Oh, no." He held his stomach and grimaced. "My stomach hurts. I need to go to the outhouse." Huff, huff. Just as he was about to slip away, Jun Changxiao raised his hand. His thick spiritual power seemed to turn into chains and bound the youth in white. "Kid," he said coldly, "if your stomach hurts, poop in your pants." Dong! 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 Princess Red Lotus led the soldiers up the stairs. When she saw what was happening, she said in surprise, "Sect leader Jun, why are you here?" She looked in the direction where Jun Changxiao and the youth in white were standing. The patriarchs mistakenly thought that she was talking to the youth in white. If Princess Red Lotus was not present, someone would have said, "You're the idiot. You're the one who was fooled." "Princess." A patriarch pointed at Jun Changxiao and said angrily, "This person not only impersonated sect leader Jun, but also attacked and injured people in the city. Please punish him severely." Chapter 533. There were many people in this world who thought they were smart, but in fact, they were extremely stupid. The clan masters in Hua Man Tower were typical examples. Jun Changxiao tore off the masks of his fellow scammers. He still firmly believed that the young man in white was sect leader Jun. Actually, he was not necessarily stupid. He was just too proud and had a high status. He could not accept the fact that he had been scammed. He was more willing to believe that everything was true. However, reality was very cruel. When a clan master pointed at Jun Changshao and complained to Princess Red Lotus, she walked over and said, "Sect leader Jun, this is the scammer who pretended to be you in the royal city. I brought people here today to bring him to justice." Hua Man Tower was silent. The clan masters who had been kept in the dark, or who had wanted to be kept in the dark, were all stunned. This time, they could clearly see that Princess Red Lotus was conversing with the young man and not with Sect Master Jun, whom they assumed to be. Swoosh! Jun Changshao raised his hand and made a grabbing motion in the air, pulling the white-clothed youth over. He said coldly, "So, you're a habitual swindler." The young man's legs trembled violently. It turned out that the person standing in front of him was really Jun Changshao. It was ridiculous that he had pretended to be him in front of him. Sect leader Jun. The young man in white said in a trembling voice, I didn't mean to offend you." Rip. Jun Changshao waved his hand and tore off the human skin mask on his face. This person had a slightly sickly face. Although he was not ugly, compared to our wise sect leader Jun, the difference was like heaven and earth. "Princess." Jun Changshao grabbed the impostor's collar and said lightly, "The clan masters in the city think that I am an impostor. Please give me proof." In fact, there was no need to prove because they were all awake. Although Princess Red Lotus had just arrived, she had a rough understanding of the situation from the clan master's words. She played along and said, "This is Jun Changshao, the leader of the Iron Bone clan. His other identity is the honorary teacher of the Heavenly Mandate Academy." Plop! The last line of defense collapsed, and all the patriarchs collapsed onto the ground. Treating the real as the fake and the fake as the real, he was simply too stupid. "Sect Master Jun." One of the patriarchs said in a trembling voice, "This Shang has eyes but was ignorant. Please don't take my previous offense to heart." The others also hurriedly apologized and thanked him. Jun Changshao said, "If I were a narrow-minded person, your heads would have been removed long ago." Everyone's faces paled, and a chill ran down their spines. Indeed. If he really cared about it, he would definitely be dead by now. Princess Red Lotus would definitely not offend the sect master of Iron Bone for him. Everyone hurriedly apologized again, their waists almost touching the ground. However, Jun Changshao said indifferently, "I just released the power of the sword and martial kings, which consumed a lot of spiritual energy. You can do as you see fit. When three people walk together, one of them is bound to be my teacher." Jun Changshao had learned something from this swindler, and he immediately applied what he had learned. The patriarchs were very cooperative. They all took out a stack of banknotes so that he could recover the spiritual energy he had just consumed. It was quite a lot. There was a total of 3 million taels. Fuck. This was really profitable. How good would it be if he managed the malfaction himself and went straight for the gold? Sect Master Jun, Princess Red Lotus said apologetically, "This person impersonated your name and swindled people in the royal city. It's my negligence." Princess Red Lotus was so respectful to him. It was fortunate that they were still alive. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed and said, "I'm too popular now. As the saying goes, popular people have a lot of trouble. It's inevitable that I'll be used to swindle people." System, Princess Red Lotus said, "I will definitely punish this swindler severely." With that, she raised her hand and ordered the soldiers to take the white-robed youth from Sect Master Jun's hands. The swindler's face turned pale. The royal city's laws were very strict. Swindling people under Sect Master Jun's name would definitely be severely punished. They might even spend the rest of their lives in jail. If he had known this would happen, he would not have done it in the first place. Many people knew that they had to pay a heavy price for breaking the law, but many people did not know the law and break it. Princess. Jun Changshao said, "This person impersonated my name and is extremely despicable. I plan to punish him personally." This, Princess Red Lotus was silent for a moment before she said, "All right then." "No." The white-robed youth wailed, "Princess, please bring me back to the royal city. I'm willing to accept any punishment." If he was brought to the royal city, he would at least be alive. If he fell into the hands of this ferocious person who had wiped out several evil sects, he would definitely die a terrible death. Princess Red Lotus ignored him and ordered for all his accomplices to be captured. The Ren family head who was sent flying was also in disguise. He was not the real Ren family head. Where was the real one? They had ambushed him and locked him up. Princess Red Lotus would deal with this matter and the author would not explain further. This swindler gang was truly professional. They had two people impersonate the family heads and put on a show of paying to enter the sect. The family heads would definitely not be willing to fall behind, so they were swindled. "Princess, I admit to my crimes. I accept my punishment. Please." Jun Changshao chopped the back of the white-robed youth's head with his palm, causing him to faint. He said, "Since you know fear, why did you impersonate my name and swindle others?" Outside Guilin City, Princess Red Lotus personally sent him to the city gates. "Princess," Jun Changshao said in a conflicted manner, "if someone impersonates my name to swindle others, is there a way to prevent such things from happening?" He had encountered one himself. If he did not encounter any other daring impersonators, wouldn't his reputation continue to be tarnished? Princess Red Lotus said, "I will issue a red decree in the royal city. Anyone who impersonates Sect Master Jun will be punished with severe crimes." This was the only solution for now. Someone said that they could distribute Sect Master Jun's portrait. Actually, it was useless. If someone really wanted to impersonate him, they could just disguise themselves according to the portrait and continue swindling others. Recruiting manual typing. Daily income of 200 to 500 yuan. Mobile phone to work. Interested, there were scams like this every day. You might think you were smart enough not to be fooled, but someone might be. Cracking down on crime was urgent. At the same time, the masses also needed to be more vigilant to prevent being swindled. Jun Changshao returned to the topic at hand and said, "Princess, are you really not planning to join the Iron Bone clan?" "Woman, I'll give you one more chance." Princess Red Lotus smiled politely and said, "My father is still in seclusion. I need his permission to join your clan after he comes out of seclusion." Princess is such a filial daughter. Jun Changshao said, "Jun will take his leave first." As he said this, he lifted the white-robed youth and left with Lu Wanshi. Princess Red Lotus only looked away when the figures gradually disappeared on the official road. She muttered helplessly, "I also want to join the Iron Bone clan, but the Heavenly Mandate Royal City also needs someone to take care of it." Chapter 534. Guilin City was in an uproar. All the warriors in the city were talking about it. It turned out that sect leader Jun, who was recruiting disciples at Hua Man Tower, was a fake. The young man who paid 10,000 taels was the real sect leader Jun. It was a bit messy and confusing. Many warriors analyzed for a long time before they could make sense of the situation. "I knew it. Sect leader Jun can't even take in enough students from the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Why would he come to Guilin City to recruit disciples? Why didn't you say it at the beginning?" If I said it, would you believe me? TSK, hindsight. All the clan leaders have lost a lot of face this time. While everyone was feeling sorry for the clan leaders in Guilin City, they were also mourning for the fake. Sect leader Jun was a fierce person. You pretended to be him and got caught by him. Your ending must be very tragic. Sect leader Jun. In the wilderness, the young man in white was tied up by a vine rope and hung upside down on a tree. His face was red as he said, I I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Please spare my life. Jun Changshao didn't pay any attention to him and continued to check his spatial ring. There was a lot of money. More than 6 million taels. There was also a yellow powder that emitted a strong aura. It must be a small item used to impersonate the aura of the sword and martial kings. Jun Changshao saw a diary called Record of Cheating. He flipped to a random page. It recorded every time the young man in white had cheated. Counting the dates, it had been 10 years. The first time he cheated was when he was 8 years old. He cheated a little girl's first kiss with candy. In the end, he was chased by her parents for 10 miles with a stick. The second time he cheated. The third time he cheated, when he flipped to the last page, he had cheated a total of 2019 times. Closing the scam record, Jun Changzhao's mouth twitched as he said, "Brat, if you're not scamming people, then you're on the road to scamming people." He cheated more than 2,000 times in 10 years. This was definitely a persevering swindler. Sect. Sect leader Jun, the young man in white, sobbed. "I have a mother who is 180 years old and a group of brothers and sisters waiting to be fed. Please be magnanimous and spare my life." Sect leader Lu Wancher asked, "Is what he said true?" Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "This brat is full of lies. Don't be fooled by him so easily." The young man in white howled in grief. "Sect leader Jun, I may have cheated countless times in the Jianghu, but this time I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying to you." "Really?" Jun Changshao walked over and threw a punch without saying a word. Bang, wow. The white-clothed youth spat out a mouthful of blood. Sect Master Jun controlled his strength well. He gave him pain but didn't kill him. Sect Master Jun. I was wrong, bang. 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 Jun Changshao started tormenting her. In a short moment, the white-clothed youth was beaten black and blue. He fainted from the unbearable pain. "That's it." Jun Changshao shook his head and threw him onto the Hurricane Wolf King's back. "Dudu, let's continue on our way." Several hours later. When the white-clothed youth woke up, all the bones in his body felt like they were about to fall apart. "You're awake," Jun Changshao said, "then let's continue tormenting you." Bang! 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 After a while, the white-clothed youth was beaten until he fainted again. Over the course of 2 days, he was beaten up almost every once in a while. It could be said that his life was worse than death. Jun Changshao didn't take his life. He continued to torture him like this until he reached the iron bone. It would be a pity to kill someone who dared to use his name to cheat outside, so he had to torture him slowly. When sect leader Jun returned to the Iron Bone, the heavenly mandate Imperial City issued a law that anyone who pretended to be the Iron Bone sect leader would be severely punished. It was to make an example of him. The impostors who were locked in prison were also severely punished in public. Those who were worse in nature were directly crippled of their cultivation. The sect leader and Dudu are back. Su Xiaoma's loud voice sounded in the outer yard. The disciples who were cultivating were overjoyed. They weren't thinking about the sect leader, but Lu Wancher. Because in the days when she wasn't here, eating the food cooked by second senior brother was like swallowing chaff. Li Qingyang was also very excited. Little junior sister was back, and he finally didn't have to cook anymore. Senior brothers have all lost weight. Lu Wancher looked at everyone with heartache, and her eyes were wet. Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, and the others also had tears in their eyes. They almost hugged each other and cried out loud. "What are you crying for?" Jun Changshao said, "Dudu won the championship of the culinary competition. Smile happily for me. Little junior sister is mighty. Little junior sister is mighty." Su Xiaoma and the others shouted one after another. Pa! The magically modified sound system was turned on and sang, "The spring breeze of reform blows the ground. Qi Delong, Qi Dongqiang," on the training field. Thousands of disciples danced happily under the leadership of the King of Poetry, Divine Tune, and the sect leader. It was the original recipe, and it was the original taste. Woo! In the cafeteria, when Su Xiaoma took a bite of the food cooked by Lu Wancher, his face was full of tears. Li Fei and the others were also crying their eyes out. Second senior brother. Su Xiaoma put his hand on Tianqi's shoulder and cried, Don't mind it. We definitely don't dislike the food you cook. Woo! After eating the food cooked by Lu Wancher, the Iron Bone disciples were refreshed and walked out of the cafeteria in high spirits. However, they quickly surrounded the white-clothed young man. Kid. Su Xiaoma walked over and grinned, "You dare to pretend to be the sect leader. You have guts." Li Fei. He shouted at the top of his lungs, "Happy soccer ball." Okay. Whoosh. Li Fei retreated 100 meters away and put the happy soccer ball under his feet. Although the white-clothed young man didn't know what it was, a sense of danger surged in his heart, and he said in fear, "You. What are you doing?" Bang. Li Fei kicked the ball away, and the ball flew in an arc, hitting him squarely in the face. This kick was very precise, because after the happy soccer ball hit the white-clothed young man's face, it bounced back perfectly. Bang! Li Fei kicked again, and the happy soccer ball shot out. Bang! 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 In front of the goal, the white-clothed young man was tied to a chair. The happy soccer ball flew in an arc, hitting his face again and again, and bouncing back. The scene was too horrible to look at. If the Chinese football team had Li Fei's footwork, they wouldn't have to worry about not being able to get into the World Cup. Sect leader. Just as he sat in the main hall, Li Qingyang reported, "The renovation of the inner courtyard has been completed." "How many people can it hold?" Jun Changshao asked. Li Qingyang said, "After the renovation and expansion by the disciples, it can now hold 20,000 people. 20,000 people, huh?" Jun Changshao murmured, "It's enough for now." "Oh, right." He said, "Soon, there will be a group of students joining the sect. You'll be in charge of making arrangements." "Students?" Li Qingyang was a little puzzled, but he still said, "Yes." In the afternoon, Chu Xiunan, Huoling, and the others rushed to Iron Bone. When they just walked into the outer courtyard, before they could admire the buildings of the sect, they saw Li Fei still kicking the happy soccer ball, hitting the white-clothed young man's face again and again. Bang! Bang! One kick, two kicks, and each kick was explosive. The corners of Huoling and the others' mouths twitched violently, and a chill ran down their spines. What was going on? Was he punishing the disciples who broke the rules? Thinking of how violent Jun Changshao was in the school, they immediately realized that this sect must be filled with a group of violent maniacs. "Dad, Mom. I seem to have entered a tiger's den." Chapter 535. Due to the sect leader's instructions, Li Qingyang handled the admission procedures for 39 students. Teacher Jun Changshao punched Huoling's head and said, "From today onwards, you have to call me sect leader." "Yes." Huoling had a big bump on his head and said, "Sect leader." "Qingyang." Jun Changshao said, "These new disciples will be arranged by you." "Yes." Li Qingyang led a group of juniors to the newly renovated inner courtyard and assigned them rooms and uniforms. He reminded them, "Gather at the training field tomorrow morning." "Thank you, senior brother." Huoling grinned. After Li Qingyang left, these students from the academy began to discuss in shock. "The Iron Bone disciples we met on the way all had strong auras. They must be stronger than senior sister Lu. Especially in the outer courtyard. That young man who was punishing disciples must be a high-ranked Wuzong. These young masters with extraordinary talents thought that they could compete with the most ordinary disciples after coming to Iron Bone. In the end, they realized that they were nothing at all. TSK, Chu Xiunan said disdainfully, I don't believe that there are no mediocre people in Iron Bone. As he spoke, he strode toward the outer courtyard. Young Master Chu, where are you going? To find a fellow disciple to spar with. Everyone's mouth twitched. Young Master Chu. At this moment, Wu Ling said in shock, be careful. Chu Xiunan was stunned. Bang, the happy football was shot from the outer courtyard and hit his face hard. His whole body immediately sank into the wall. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Damn it, in the corner of the outer courtyard, Chu Xiunan covered his red and swollen face and said angrily, how dare you sneak attack me? That's despicable. Young Master Chu. Hu Ling said in a low voice, these Iron Bone disciples are too strong. You mustn't spar with them. Nonsense. Of course, I'm not that stupid. If I want to challenge, I should challenge the weakest in the sect, Right at this time, Chu Xiunan saw a disciple standing at the entrance and said proudly, this brat should be a gatekeeping disciple. I can use him to test my skills first. As he spoke, he got up and walked over. The sect created by the 7 profound sacred venerate is indeed extraordinary. I should be able to become a peak martial master in a few days, he woody thought to himself. This martial cultivator from the upper realm was really talented. Even after falling to level 0 so many times, he could still reach such a level. Even Yixingqian at his peak was not worth mentioning in front of him. As someone who had been through this before, he woody knew that advancing too quickly would arouse suspicion and ultimately bring him trouble. Therefore, he had always relied on the hidden cultivation technique to suppress his realm. On the surface, his cultivation was that of a 6th-grade martial master. He didn't hide everything, but he couldn't be too low profile. Otherwise, the sect leader would think that he was a noob. He woody had the urge to cry at the mention of the hidden cultivation technique that suppressed one's cultivation. Of all the martial arts he had learned in the higher planes, none of them could be used on the falling star continent. This was the only martial art he could use, and it was used to hide his cultivation base. Sigh. He woody couldn't help but sigh. Hey! Suddenly, he heard a voice. Gatekeeper, how about we exchange pointers? Gatekeeper? He woody was startled, and his face immediately darkened. Little junior brother. He turned his head and said, remember, I'm the last disciple, not the gatekeeper. Last disciple? No wonder he closed the door when we came in. Ha ha ha. Chu Xiunan couldn't help but cover the pillar and laugh loudly. So this is the last disciple. He's laughing at me. A new junior brother is laughing at me. This is intolerable. He woody rushed forward and grabbed Chu Xiunan's collar with his big hand. He threw him over his shoulder and sat on him, waving his fists and beating him violently. Boom! Boom! Every punch hit the flesh, and every move was fierce. Hu Ling and the others, who were standing in the distance, were so shocked that their jaws dropped. It turned out that even a disciple in charge of the last disciple in Iron Bone was so powerful. Jun Changshao, who walked out of the main hall, looked at He Woody and murmured, this guy's aura seems a bit strong. There were now many disciples in the sect, and he couldn't pay attention to them all the time, so he didn't know much about the martial arts of many disciples. Sect Master. Li Qingyang said, Junior brother, he is now a 6th-grade martial master. Jun Changshao said in surprise, he improved so fast. Although the martial arts resources and equipment of his sect were powerful, it was inconceivable that someone who had lost his memory several times could break through to such a level. The system said, maybe this disciple of the host is like Yixingqian, and cultivated some kind of martial arts above the divine grade. It's possible. Jun Changshao put on his dazzling sunglasses and locked onto He Wudi, activating the analysis function. Cultivation, 9th grade martial master aptitude, super divine grade spiritual root strength, 130,000 gene. Looking at the aptitude display, Sect Master Jun said in surprise, there's a spiritual root higher than the divine grade? The system said, the highest level of spiritual root in the falling star continent is the divine grade. Then what does super divine grade mean? Maybe, he's like the host, not from this world. Jun Changshao said in surprise, he's also a transmigrator. The system said, this kind of super divine grade aptitude can only be found in higher planes. He might be from the upper world. Jun Changshao was silent. After coming to the falling star continent for so long, he already understood that this was just one of many planes. In the vast universe, there were many higher planes, which were often called the upper world. Thanks to the main mission given by the system, he became the strongest sect in the falling star continent. If he became the strongest sect in the entire universe, he would have given up and waited for his death to come. That's not right. Jun Changshao held his chin and said, his aura is that of a 6th grade martial master, but why is he a 9th grade martial master? He should be using some kind of mental cultivation method to hide his cultivation, the system said. Jun Changshao said, if it's a mental cultivation method that can hide from my spiritual sense, it's very mysterious. Although the sect's reputation has spread, it will still arouse the suspicion of others. If I can let myself and my disciples learn this mental cultivation method, it won't be too shocking. Rising in such a short time would definitely be questioned by the major forces. They didn't encounter any trouble now because they didn't catch anyone's attention. As their reputation grew in the future, they would definitely become the focus of attention. It was understandable that the disciples of the sect suppressed their cultivation to an acceptable level. It was definitely beneficial and harmless. In front of the gate, Chu Xiaonan, who found the weakest person to spar with, was beaten black and blue. He was beaten to the point that he had nothing left to live for. Serves him right. Of all the people to find, he had to find He Wudi. Although his cultivation wasn't the highest in the sect, his aptitude was definitely the best. Even if his cultivation was one realm lower, he would still be able to beat this arrogant young master until he couldn't tell north from south. Invincible. Sect Master Jun, who was standing in front of the main hall, waved at him with a smile and said, come here for a moment. He Wudi felt a sense of foreboding rising in his heart when he saw this strange smile. Chapter 536. Sect Master. He Wudi walked into the main hall and said, is there anything I can do for you? Because he had always suspected that the Iron Bones sect was created by the 7 profound sage, he also respected this sect master. Wudi. Jun Changshao smiled and said, have you been happy cultivating in the sect recently? The more he was like this, the more scared He Wudi felt. Reporting to sect master. This disciple is very happy and satisfied. As long as you are happy and satisfied. The smile on Jun Changxiao's face became even wider. He Wudi collapsed. Sect master, if you have something to say, just say it. Such a sinister smile is really a bit scary. Jun Changxiao said, Wudi, when I first saw you, I knew you were a moldable talent, so I accepted you as my last disciple. He Wudi almost vomited blood. Only your last disciple is the real last disciple. Sect master. He Wudi said with a bitter face, if you have something to say, just say it. If you keep doing this, this disciple's heart won't be able to take it. Straightforward. Jun Changshao stood up and walked down, saying, Wudi, do you think my Iron Bones sect should exist in a mortal world? It shouldn't. He Wudi said. There were so many martial arts resources and cultivation facilities, even the sects in the upper realm might not have them. However, Jun Changshao said quickly, it exists, why? How would I know? He Wudi said, this disciple is slow-witted, please enlighten me, Sect Master. Jun Changshao patted his shoulder and said with a deep tone, you are a smart person, you should be able to guess. He Wudi was startled. Could it be that Sect Master is hinting to me that the sect was created by the 7 profound sage, so the Iron Bone sect that shouldn't exist in the mortal world really exists? It must be so. He Wudi forced his mind to fill in the gaps and said, this disciple understands. Do you really understand? I really understand. All right. Jun Changshao said, a sect that shouldn't exist exists in the mortal world. Does this count as destroying the balance of the world? This, He Wudi considered for a moment and said, forget it. If he hadn't fallen to level 0, he definitely wouldn't have come to a low-level plane. That was because every move he made would cause the world to lose balance, and even lead him to destruction. The Iron Bone Righteous sect was created by the 7 profound Saint Venerable. It was definitely a super force in the upper realm. Now that it was in the mortal realm, it was definitely going against the natural order. Wait a minute. The sect leader has told me so much. Could it be that he is preparing to bring the sect to the upper realm, to the plane that should belong to it? This was good too. I'll follow this kind of power and develop. Once I return to my peak, I'll find my enemy for revenge. Then, I'll find the person who stole my secret manual. In order not to destroy the balance of heaven and earth, I think that the disciples should keep a low profile, Jun Changshao said. Sect Master is right. He Wudi was now very low-key, otherwise, he would not deliberately suppress his cultivation. However, Jun Changshao sighed and said, you guys are like fireflies in the dark night. No matter how low-key you are, you can't hide your brilliance. He Wudi said, Sect Master's words are very true. Invincible. Jun Changshao patted his shoulder again and said, take out the martial arts technique that you use to hide your cultivation and share it with us. Let the disciples of the sect be truly low-key. Okay, wait. He Wudi suddenly realized something and said in shock, Sect Master, I don't understand what you mean. Don't pretend to be confused. Jun Changshao said, do you think that I can't see through your cultivation just because you hide it? He Wudi's mouth twitched. He said so much, was it to deliberately probe for his martial technique? That's right. He was trying to get your martial arts technique. Perhaps the strength of crossing the void was too strong. He Wudi not only lost his cultivation, but also his intelligence. He was fooled by Sect Master Jun with just a few words. What to do? He could only recite the hidden cultivation technique verbally. It wasn't an important martial arts technique to increase his cultivation. Yes. Even if it was an important martial arts technique, it wouldn't matter if he handed it over. After all, in this low-level plane, he couldn't cultivate at all. Jun Changshao memorized it and murmured, this kind of mental cultivation technique is very different from the falling star continent in circulating the meridians. Comprehension. Half an hour later. Sect Master Jun had succeeded in cultivating it. For the first time, his cultivation immediately dropped from the Martial King level to the Wuzong level. The hidden cultivation technique was only used to hide one's cultivation. It could be considered an auxiliary martial arts technique, so it wasn't difficult to cultivate at all. We can print it into a book and let each disciple have a copy. Jun Changshao did as he said. He found many disciples and asked them to produce it overnight. The next day, one by one, the hidden cultivation technique secret manuals were distributed to the disciples for them to cultivate. When they succeeded in cultivating it, they could suppress their cultivation at will. Even a martial king would find it difficult to see their true cultivation. Just like that. No one would have thought that a martial arts technique from the upper realm could be cultivated by everyone in a sect in the mortal realm. As for He Wudi, he was still thinking about the conversation with the sect master in the main hall. He thought to himself, he can see my true cultivation. He is indeed not simple. 7 Profound Sage. Could it be that he is someone you personally appointed? The more Wudi forced himself to imagine, the more respect he had for Jun Changshao. Chu Xiunan, who had been taught a lesson, became completely obedient. He couldn't even defeat a closed-door disciple. What right did he have to be arrogant? However, the tragedy had just begun. Everyone knew that the beginning of life in the Iron Bones sect was cruel and torturous, especially the happy football. However, there was also something that shocked them. After taking the body sculpting pill, the strength of his physical body had increased. Junior brother. One day, after doing morning exercises, Su Xiaoma brought Chu Xiunan and the others to the training room. He grinned and said, "Today, I will let you experience what true happiness is." Bang! Bang! Painful screams could be heard from the dozens of molding rooms. 2 hours later, Chu Xiunan, Huoling, and the others were lying on the stairs like mud. Their faces were expressionless, as if they had nothing to live for. "Father, Mother. I really want to go home." After joining the Iron Bones sect, they definitely had to go through some torture before they could adapt. This group of Gathering Heroes Hall students was no exception. On the second day, they were full of energy. Then, after being fed by Lu Wancher's delicious food, they immediately forgot all the previous tragedies and completely fell in love with the feeling of being a masochist. Sect Master Li Luoqiu stood outside the main hall and looked at the group of new disciples going in and out of the training room. She smiled and said, "They are quite happy." "Yes." Jun Changshao leaned against the door frame and folded his arms with a smile. "Creating a happy sect is this king's lifelong wish." Li Luoqiu turned her head and smiled. Sect Master relies on this position. The eldest disciple also often relies on it. Jun Changshao was stunned. He subconsciously looked up at the sky and whispered, "She has been gone for a while. I don't know if she has reached Luzhou in the northeast." "It is a long journey from Yangzhou in the southwest to Luzhou in the northeast," Li Luoqiu said. Sect Master. At this moment, Li Qingyang hurried over and said, "There are many students outside who claim to be from the Heavenly Mandate Academy. They want to see the Sect Master and say that they want to join the sect. Is that so?" Jun Changshao waved his sleeve and smiled. "Let's go out and have a look." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.